that stands left really appears to be that Gnar that we spoke about a little bit before getting into the game today. Instead, it's going to be the Lee Sin ban, and I can't say that I dislike it, especially because Gnar's not really in a good place, and it leaves Wildcard Red having to pick a flexible laner there. The Akali, a great choice.
Yeah, the Akali left up here is interesting. I know Lee Sin can be very strong as a B1 flex, but Akali has been so prevalent in the meta, just rising in priority, rising in damage, and we know that Bradley or Brandini could be able to play it. I would imagine this is a Bradley pick here, though. He has sort of had that play style throughout. He wants to have some agency at level 6, be able to kind of move around, make some nice outplays. We've seen what he can do on multiple high skill champions. So I would expect it there, but maybe we get a little bit of a surprise, and Brandini has been working on this one to provide a flex option here for Wildcard Red. The response from 100X, though, is a set Kalista, and we saw this Kalista for Instinct yesterday. It looked really, really, really good, particularly into Ezreal. We'll see if Wildcard Red opt to give that one back to Arrow. He may not be too keen on it after a bit of a rough game 1 against Maryville.
Now, the set is not flying under the radar for me by any means either, because that was locked in very hurriedly after the Akali, and Set actually doesn't have a terrible matchup. For that matter, neither does the Galio. So with these two, I'll say flex picks being grabbed, you've actually got some really nice ways to shut Akali down in lane, and even in the mid game with that AoE taunt and knockup that Galio Kalista can provide. I'm expecting Galio to be a bot lane pick. It seems like that would be really, really good as a combination. It is solid even into the Thresh.
Yeah, we'll see where it does go. I would agree with you, Dia, that I do expect it to be in the bottom lane. A little surprised that 100X didn't go back to something like the Taric that they did play yesterday. It works very, very well next to the Kalista. We know Busio is comfortable on that one, but maybe wants a little more playmaking, a little bit more ability to roam across the map here, towards this set, wherever it does end up, and towards whatever jungler ends up being locked in here for Chad Jungle. They did take away his Jin Zhao, which he looked very, very good on yesterday. So maybe looking for a different option there. But we'll see if the CLG bug has kind of caught 100X here and this Galio ends up going mid lane.
This is interesting. I also want to pay respect, of course, to the fact that Gnar was taken away by 100X, making it 4 top lane bans just for them in this game alone. Definitely paying respect to Brandini. We'll see what he ends up picking up, because Wildcard Red don't have that counter pick, and 100X do. I'm expecting them to leave this sort of wide open. Pick a jungler right now and let it be known that top lane will be countered.
Wow, the Kha'Zix's going to be locked in here for Chad Jungle. And as his name suggests, as he showed yesterday, he is going to try to chat it out here against Wildcard Red. That is a bold pick up there, Dia. You have got to get fed on this Kha'Zix pick. You need to get that bonus damage. You need to be ahead of the curve to assassinate people in the jungle in isolated situations, or you just become an absolutely useless bug that can get squashed at a moment's notice.
And the thing is, especially for the Kha'Zix pick right now, there's not a whole lot of CC to keep this guy down. Even with the Aatrox lock-in for Wildcard Red, a very interesting, I hesitate to call it adaptation here into the Kha'Zix. And in Aphelios being considered as well, with no healing, no shielding, you're putting a lot of pressure on Daption to be able to keep everybody safe.
You are putting a lot of pressure on Daption, but I do think he's up to the task here. Dia's been playing a lot of Thresh here alongside Eras Aphelios. He's excellent at the champion. Going to get a slight counter pick there on the Nautilus, so we do see it happen. I was saying, is this the CLG book? We're going to get that Galio mid lane, which is probably largely the reason they banned away Lucian in that phase 2. Lucian has an incredible matchup into Galio. Bradley is exceptional at the champion. They take that one away. It's a much better matchup into Akali in particular. You just stand there, you put up the Shield of Durand, you get the taunt down on that on the Shroud. When Akali goes into it, you're going to stun her up. You're going to make it hard for her to do what she wants to do. So I like the adaptations here from 100X. The question is, can they execute? This draft wants to get ahead very early on here, Dia. They want Kalista to be strong. They want this Kha'Zix to have kills. If this game goes a little bit long here, we've seen how much damage Arrow can do on the Aphelios, and he can just take over this game.
Now, if you take off the nameplates, though, I really do find myself favoring the 100X draft a lot more because of its early game and mid game power, and dragons being as important as they are in this season. I'm a little bit worried is sort of an understatement for the composition of Wildcard Red and their ability to keep these bruisers, these CC tanks with so much initiate, off of them and off of their back line, because there's a Kha'Zix in there as well, and it just becomes so hard to actually focus in the team fight. There's such a high barrier of execution for Wildcard Red in the mid game, especially if they're not ahead, that I think this game really can become a nightmare for them. And I want you to enlighten me a little bit here, DJ. Where can they actually look to? Who can they focus on to try and get them to that mid game in a position where they can actually straight up be winning?
Yeah, I think if you want to look for somewhere to flex in the mid-game, it's probably going to be on this top side. And I do think Brandini could get pushed into this set. The set is incredibly strong in lane, but if you're playing the Aatrox well, landing your Qs there, you can get shoved, you can heal up. You're both energy champions, so set not going to be as easy for him to just kind of push into your face. Otherwise, it can be a little tricky. Galio can push and roam. He can shove this Akali in the early levels before she gets 6 and kill threat. Can make it a little bit hard here for Winston, who is exceptional in this Rumble, but may definitely need some help if he is alone against the Kha'Zix. The big advantage here for Winston that I think he's going to need to take advantage of, clear speed. Of course, we all know it. We all love it here with this Rumble. He should outclear this Kha'Zix by a hefty margin if he can find the right timings with his mid and top laner. When they do have even small windows of priority, he can get ahead of this bug and can have some help in his back pocket. But like you said, Dia, it's not going to be easy. The 100x composition is designed to get there, is designed to be a skirmishing, strong team in the mid game. So it's going to be incumbent on Wildcard Red to respect that, know their windows, and get to the point where they can take over the game through Arrow.
And you even talked about this a little bit there, sort of dropping it off with the word small attached to the windows of priority there. But Wildcard Red don't actually have the most favorable matchups in terms of shove. And so getting support for a Winston who is being invaded is going to be really difficult. And I dare say that they can't even just rely on priority alone. They can't rely on rotations. It's got to be early vision that makes the difference. And I know that we talk up vision a lot on the desk. A lot of times we'll get to the end of a game and go, it really did come down to vision, of course, because it gives you information. But here, it's an essential to be able to survive, to outweather the early game for Wildcard Red and get to the point where Winston has access to the level 6, can drop the equalizer and have his impact in the team fight from relatively safe distances, be able to gank nicely without worrying about getting two-shot by a Kha'Zix.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly going to be tricky. They're going to have to navigate it the right way. Like we said, the windows may be small, but I think Wildcard Red, they know how to draft. They know what their win condition is here. Make sure you don't get bowled over in this early game. Again, this Kha'Zix is kind of the one worry I have about 100x's composition. He's got a lot of support, but he's a Kha'Zix at the end of the day. We don't see it a lot because it requires a very specific and high execution style of play. If he doesn't get fed, you can just watch this composition kind of fall off in the later stages of the game. So I think Wildcard Red will know what they need to do. The question is, like you said, like we've been harping on here on the desk, can they get to that moment where the game flips on its head, where the items come in, where Arrow gets too strong, where Brandini gets too strong in a side lane, and the options just dwindle for 100x as they throw their bodies into Wildcard?
Well, there's only one way to find out, DJ, so I'm going to suggest that we take a very quick break here, throw it as the spectator delay ticks down, and then find out whether Wildcard Red can execute against 100 Thieves or the other way around once we get onto the Rift.
Awake to my voice and hear the call within. Embrace the fear inside. Surrender your mind to mine again. Close your eyes, have faith in me, and leave the light behind. You're never alone. Whenever it's gone, let the shadows take hold. You're never alone. Let the poison in. Feel the warmth arise. Close your eyes, have faith in me, and leave the light behind. You're never alone.
Welcome to the Rift, ladies and gentlemen, for the first game of the second day of Risen Champions League. I managed to do that without tripping over myself. Welcome to the Rift, DJ, as Wildcard Red go up against 100X for the first time, and definitely not the last. It's our first game of the best of three. We'll see who sets the tone in their favor.
Yeah, we want to talk about tone. I'm really hoping it's 100X here, Dia. This draft is just picture perfect for early to mid-game skirmishing here with Chad Jungle on the Kazakhs, with this Kalista back in the bottom lane for Instinct after he soared to success on it yesterday against Wildcard Black. But again, we know the win conditions here for Wildcard Red. They want to get to the point where Arrow can take over on the Cephalios, and so we got to be looking at Winston here. Again, new top laner, a little bit of lack of synergy maybe yesterday, but Winston has been excellent for them all season. He will need to step up to bridge that mid game into the late game where they can overcome this composition and get some revenge for their friends on Wildcard Black.
And everybody else has to be there to back up Winston as well. I know it's something that we sort of take for granted, but consider this, that 100 Thieves Next have drafted themselves a comp that should run the early game in its entirety. I don't really look at this and go, there's a lot of hope for Wildcard Red. It's scaling, you're waiting, you're hoping that 100 Thieves don't take full advantage of the fact that they should run your early game. And that's where Winston becomes so important, because so often it's the jungler who needs to recognize and attack where 100X aren't taking advantage of their priority, where they're misstepping, where they're miscalculating, right? Because the game right now belongs to 100 Thieves, but it's Winston who's the one that gets to pick that apart. And that means that everybody else on Wildcard Red needs to be following up on this Rumble, because Rumble is a lot. He's great, but he's not a one-man army.
No, he certainly is not. I mean, Rumble's a champion that you see teams pick CC specifically for, right? You want to keep people inside of your ultimate to do the maximum amount of damage to allow you to use that champion to its absolute fullest. So they're lacking a little bit of CC in that mid top. It's going to be largely on Brandini here and maybe a roam from Daption on the odd occasion to find those kind of hooks, those kind of plays to set up Winston for success. But the biggest thing I'm looking for them to do is, again, find small windows, find small advantages, even in matchups, particularly this mid lane one, that don't work out that well, to help your jungler. He's going to outclear Chad Jungle. He's going to need someone in his pocket so he doesn't die in the 1v1 inside the jungle, which is what Kha'Zix loves to do. And again, get him to that level 6 mark, because a Rumble at level 6, Winston Rumble at level 6, going to be so much more impactful in any sort of small skirmish.
And those small windows as well, I sort of want to extend, can happen in the mid game where we're still expecting 100X to have the reins in the form of resource allocation, something that we don't really see a whole lot of focus on, especially at this level, that is still really important when your team is jiving, being able to say, okay, we have a little bit of time to breathe in the mid game. We don't think 100x is going to take an objective. Can we get Arrow to side lane? For those of you who are new to stream as well, happy B player, that's Arrow.
Yeah, that is Arrow, and expect to see the Happy Bee emote come out quite a bit from Arrow as well. That's why he's named himself that. As we do restart from this pause, happy to see that one wrap up here. But like you said, you just have to kind of, when you're in a bad matchup, you have to find ways to get around it, right? You have to find windows, and something that Wildcard Red have always done to do that is, as you mentioned, macro play. They've done it time and time again in Challengers Uprising, even in games when Dokla was down in the top lane 0-3, 0-4, even on Jace. They understood their win conditions. They knew when to rotate around the map, where to set up vision. They were able to earn those advantages cross map. That's something that Wildcard Red has been so good at this season, and they'll have to prove that they have it here again with that new player in the top lane. Macro is something that often comes with synergy. We saw it struggle a little bit yesterday. Hopefully they have improved on it a little bit in the very short break they've had to get ready for this game, because it is a strength of theirs. We don't want it to become a weakness, particularly against this composition.
I really like the cheeky little play there from Young as well, recognizing, of course, on this Galio that starting the Justice Punch can go pretty unpunished, and even in the bot lane, it's Busio that gets the first hook of the game as well, being able to secure a small trade, but more than that, set the tone for 100x and for Wildcard Red that they don't run the map right now.
No, they do not run the map. They don't run the map in potentially anywhere but top lane. But even there, you can see Gamsu is just landing these trades onto Brandini, pushing him in, getting that level 2 marker first. So right now, there's pretty much nowhere that Wildcard Red can run the map. Bradley being knocked up once again, goes back in for the trade here. But fortunately, so far, it hasn't punished Winston. Again, he is ahead on the clear. You can see them on the minimap now. Still working on his Raptors here is Chad Jungle. Winston already away from that camp. That's the big advantage you get on this Rumble pick. But again, Wildcard Red going to need to get these lane states in a better position, because at some point he's going to have to go for a scuttle, and they're both pathing towards the spot side one, Dia.
And that's really scary, right? You can already see the aggressive vision from 100x as well, knowing that the Raptors have already been taken with the ward that Young placed. Chad Jungle can actually rotate down, know that he has that first Scuttle Crab, control the river, and deny a lot from Winston, which is the power of having an early skirmishing jungle that we already know he's very comfortable on, having seen things like the Xin Zhao already appear in the Risen Champions League. Going to be able to get the first Scuttle now, although if we look at Wildcard Red, they've actually got a little bit of priority here.
Yeah, they do have priority, but they're going to wander in a little bit too late there. You can see the disappointment as the recall comes in from Winston. Clever stuff from Chad here. He skipped 2 of his bottom side camps there, the blue buff and the Gromp, to get to that Scuttlebug, and it will guarantee him both as he runs straight to top side. Winston is recalling, but I don't think he's recognized this. He's not going to get to this bug in time. There's no priority in the lanes. It's already gone. His best play would have been to walk into the jungle, but I don't think there was any information on this pathing from Chad.
Bradley's pretty low as well. The ward going to be cleared away by Chad Jungle. So Bradley knows that there's a threat in the area, namely the Kazakhs there, as another hook does land in the bot lane. Not going to net too much for the squadron, although it's Arrow that feels fairly comfortable here, has the Gravitum. Instinct actually gets rooted down, gets ignited, might burn to the ground. It's going to be Daption that secures first blood, and a second as well. The Thresh may be cleaning up the kills, but Wildcard Red, the fact is they're finding domination in a bot lane that they should never be winning.
Ooh, a little unlucky there on the second one as Daption. I don't think he needed to put that auto out. Bradley is just going to live here. Ooh, that's tight. But this is just subverting expectations here. And this is what happens when you have someone like Arrow, like Daption in your bottom lane, Dia. These two are so good. They have shown so much synergy. And Arrow is just a bit of a cheat code on this champion sometimes. You should not be winning trades against Kalista Nautilus in the early game. That lane is so dominant, particularly when you don't have the long range gun here for Aphelios. If you can't outrange Kalista, it's hard to trade with her, but Arrow and Daption make it happen. They get the double kill against the odds, and now they are set up for so much success, because don't forget, Even though he got a couple assists, Arrow, he's the late game win condition. If he gets too strong, there is no way this 100 Thieves composition can get to him without getting shredded.
Yeah, I was hoping that Arrow would really come on in like the 20, 30-minute mark, once he had a good time to side lane, once everybody was set up for the team fights, but the game very quickly might just become about him as a nice dark passage, going to get Winston to safety as well. Wildcard Red continuing to abuse their dominance in that bot lane, their unexpected dominance, one might say, to its fullest potential by feeding that into their jungler, and it's going the other way around. I expected this to be the laners need to play around the jungler, but instead it's the jungler playing around where the laners are strong. As Spurge, he is strong himself, has that level 6, is almost going to take down and does manage to land a kill onto Houdini Brandini, but falls himself.
Yeah, Brandini goes down, but Gamsu gets caught under the turret there. He can't stay alive. It ends up being a 1-for-1, flash for flash. I'm not sure if Brandini will have to TP back to his lane here. He will. So at the very least, Summoner is going to be all even. That is going to be a positive play for Gamsu as some experience and minions are lost. But meanwhile, we got a Drake fight here.
Ooh, Winston's not level 6. This is really, really risky. They're relying on Arrow, but already it's going to be Rumble that gets taken down. Arrow going to be able to dodge out for just now, but the final knock-up landing from Young is going to take him down. Bradley attempts to put out the damage here, has a lot of AoE, but it's not quite enough to clean up the kills. It's all up to Daption to finally finish off Young here, but the damage resistance is almost enough as the play secures the kill, and it's Busio, the supportal combat. Who will win it? Busio takes the kill.
Busio ends up getting the final kill here, walks away victorious in the battle of the supports as everyone dies around the first Drake. But I do have to say and agree with you, Dia, Wildcard Red fighting that without level 6 on this Rumble. Not sure what the calculus was there. Maybe thought they just had the damage with Bradley roaming down, but it's always going to be a bit risky going into that fight without that ultimate. You can see that Galio had it. Young comes in with that hero's entrance, adds the extra CC and damage they need to get the Drake and barely win the fight.
And it is ever so slight, but it's going to be really important as the game goes on. A little bit of trading in this bot side should be fine for Arrow, but I want to note where those kills went, because it was 100x that ended up coming out on top of that trade, and they actually got a decent amount of income pumped into Young, the only AP on this side. And when you're talking about it, although you might not consider Galio a particularly high damage threat, the fact that nobody's going to be itemizing resistances into him makes it really, really good for 100x.
Okay, interesting ultimate here from Gamsu in the top lane, thinking he could take advantage of Brandini being near the turret. Just dashes away. Good stuff there from Brandini. But back to your point about Young. Yeah, he is the only AP damage, and which makes me a little concerned. Again, as this game goes later and later on, yeah, nobody's going to be itemizing to prevent that magic damage. So it will be incumbent upon him to deal as much as he can, particularly in this mid game when it will be the most effective. But he is just a Galio here, so Young really going to have to outdo the limitations of this champion if he wants to provide the damage that they may need in these later game fights.
Winston now level 6. Doesn't lay down the equalizer there, knowing that the Fate's Call is going to save Busio. So it's going to be just a pressure play for Wildcard. No Rift Herald for them obviously means they likely don't get to crack this first tower, but it still will be plates going over to them and finding the small advantages as they lay across the map. And it hasn't just been off of where Winston is either. There's a small weird phenomenon happening in this game where, against the expected flow of play, Wildcard Red actually find themselves up in CS in the majority of their lanes.
Yeah, and it's netted them quite a gold lead here, Dia. It's 1.5, nearly 2K at the 10-minute mark. It's not the most gigantic lead I've seen at 10 minutes in some of these snowbally games, but really just off of this CS, the kill score is nearly even. It's pretty awesome that Wildcard have been able to do this in lanes that should be losing, and now they're trying to dive. Gamsu!
Well, Spurge is just going to die here. Great tank up from Brandini. Is able to do plenty with the lifesteal afforded to him, or the Omnivamp rather, by the World Ender, and the Wave's in a great position for him as well, with no teleport on Spurge. things might have just gone very, very south for the 100x top lane, and it's Winston that might be in trouble next, as small bush camp gonna be spotted out by our hero Daption.
Yeah, everybody here from Wildcard Red, and Daption's everyone's hero right now. Dia, look at this man, 4-1-1 on Thresh. If you had no context in this game, you'd think Daption was the main carry here. That's a disgustingly awesome scoreline for this Thresh, but more importantly, he is at the plays they needed to make, securing that Scuttle Crab for his jungler Winston here, who finds himself up a very healthy amount of CS. That clear speed starting to show itself as he's taken multiple camps away from Chad Jungle, who is still without a kill. And we set this up, Dia. He needs kills. He's on a Kha'Zix. You have got to be aggressive. You've got to be in the face of the enemy team, slicing them up, finding isolated targets. And so far, Chad has not had any say in this game.
And if you're lacking kills, you at least need gold, which is something that he can get for the next little while. Having picked up the Ripped Herald right now, it's up to this Kha'Zix, and more so up to people like Busio and Young with him to make a gank happen and to get 100x rolling, because as we mentioned earlier, the gold lead currently not in their favor, and this is a comp that needs to be winning the early game. Right now, Wildcard Red, they've found a few too many holes in their defense. We'll see if this turns into one, though, as that is a big equalizer. And Fate's Call gonna get forced out as 2 ultimates expended for just 1. Isn't bad.
Yeah, not too bad there, but here is Brandini. He's just 1v5ing. What is going on, Brandini? You're just dead!
That is tragic right now, losing your flanker, and it actually means that Wildcard Red, they've got to back off. Good play from Daption, buys some time, but into the fray goes Bradley, gets CC'd up, has the Shroud though, and it's going to be Arrow coming in from the side, the damage that nobody expected, that picks up a triple kill, and it's going to wipe the team fight for Wildcard Red. It's a quadra kill, but I don't think we get that penta because the flash, the heal are not available to finish off that last kill on Chad Jungle.
Oh, we only needed the flash or the penta there, Dia. It's so sad. What a fight by Wildcard. They go into it without their flanker, without Brandini, but they have one critical aspect, the Riftmaker, the only mythic item completed before that fight was on Bradley. And while he fell due to the Galio taunt, he did so much damage beforehand. Arrow went untouched while Bradley was in the midst of 4 inside the Shroud, and he just cleaned everyone up. Chakram after Chakram, finishing with the full halo around himself as he picks up 4 kills, evens up the Drake count, and blows this game open for Wildcard.
I mean, now at least he's finally caught up to Daption, who's been sitting here waiting for him for a while. Turns out that now that you have a fed Aphelios, you should actually be able to close out fights a whole lot easier, as that Kraken Slayer is going to be doing no small amount of true damage, and honestly, neither is the Riftmaker for Bradley, who picked up a lot of KP for himself in the assist column that fight as well.
Yes, he did. And this one item mark here for Wildcard Red, already a little bit scary for the likes of 100x. I do think on their one item power spike, as these mythics do come through, Gore Drinker looking for the Stride Breaker from Gamsu, they can still fight here. Callista particularly is very, very strong on that one item power spike with the Immortal Shield Bow. But I gotta be honest here, Dia, we talked about the scaling for Wildcard Red. Okay, well, we don't get to talk about scaling. It's team fight time.
Yeah, there's just no way to escape once it is that Wildcard decide they want to fight. They've got so many gap closers here, and the fight just continues as Bradley goes forward with the second part of the perfect execution. Flash from Brandini doesn't find Young, but he might just get pulled back into his doom. It's going to be another 3 members of 100x that fall in their own jungle with no objectives to take. It's just a bloodbath for Wildcard.
It is just a bloodbath here, and no TP even comes in from Gamsu. 100x electing to just keep him up there, not join the fight, much to their detriment, as Busio is caught out, and then everyone else is just cleaned up. And a bit of a roller coaster ride of emotions probably there for Brandini, as I believe he failed the flash Q over the wall, but did manage to connect the cage and pulled Young back to clean him up. So we'll at least breathe a sigh of relief that one at least rewards him after what could have been a bit of an embarrassing play.
You can't argue with the results, really. It's, a little bit here, a little bit there. It still comes out Wildcard Red, and it seems like They have really been playing the luck right now, as I didn't expect Wildcard Red's draft to go nearly as well as it did, given how 100X had so much early priority, but it really feels like exactly what we were talking about has come to fruition. Be it around their jungler or not, Wildcard Red very clearly are willing to take the game into their own hands, where 100X honestly struggled to find plays.
Yeah, they really did struggle to find plays, and I think a lot of credit does have to go over to Wildcard. We mentioned it during that kind of mid-game segment. They were ahead just kind of on CS. This is interesting from Young.
Yeah, well, it's not a winning play, that's for sure, because going in at that point with no backup is only going to make it harder for the rest of the team. Good Fate's call brings Busio at least to safety, but you're wishing you had one of those for your Galio, who steps a little too far forward and doesn't seem to be stopping anytime soon either, as he's the person who you're relying on to engage more often than not.
That's what I was going to say, Dia. I think Young forgot what champion he's playing here. He is the backup as he goes. He's going in. Where's my backup? You are the backup, Young. That's the whole point of the champion. He just walks into 3 members, and Arrow on this Kraken Slayer is just too strong. He falls. And the snowball continues here from Wildcard Red. I mean, we still don't have a strike breaker on Gamsu. What has happened in this top lane here, Dia? They cannot complete their mythic items. They are so far behind this more scaling composition from Wildcard Red. And Busio, where are you?
When your support is pushing up the mid lane, it's never going to be a good sign, especially when that ends up giving yet another kill to Arrow, when it ends up only increasing the gold deficit that you are at. I'm going to do some very quick caster math here. It looks like about 8,000 gold to the favor of Wildcard Red, and that is as the next dragon comes up. Keep in mind, of course, that an Ocean Soul will be gracing our rift today, although I don't expect that we actually make it all the way there, because with 3 dragons to go, Wildcard Red should certainly be able to close out the game before that.
Yeah, I don't think Wildcard Red cares about the Dragons one bit here. They don't need them to win this game. Their composition alone, I think, wins this game. Their big objective, in my eyes, will be the Baron at the 20-minute mark. They're going to want to have a clean setup for that Baron, see if they can get a pick beforehand or have vision leading up to that objective. That's the one that'll break them into the base. But honestly, Dia, I think the big reason they don't really care about Drakes is because they don't really need to fight for them. The timer has sort of expired here for 100X, and it was already getting very short, but 2 items are in for Arrow, and the 2-item mark is really when Aphelios comes online as they jump here onto Bradley, but he's got a Shroud.
And Bradley also has the stopwatch as well, so I actually feel pretty comfortable taking the extended fight. Is forcing 100 Thieves out of the jungle. The backup is going to come in from Young, and no Zanya's in time. Actually means that Bradley gets deleted. It's the best fight that 100 Thieves could have asked for, but it's still going to end with them having to back away from the much stronger Wildcard Red as Brandini waltzes forward looking for more kills.
Yeah, if he connected that Q2, I think Gamsu dies. And I think if Gamsu dies, it's a Baron for the likes of Wildcard Red. That being said, they are just picking up the Drake for free on the back half of the map, while 3 of their players just zone 100X away. Bradley will respawn here shortly. He did not use that stopwatch, as I believe he did get taunted up at the end of that fight, allowing him to go down. So we'll still have that tool available in the next team fight as Wildcard Red just continued to push forward here. And I was saying it right before we got the fight, but again, I think the timer nearly up here, or is pretty much, it's already, it's up. Yeah, the timer's up. 2 items on Arrow here. You are, at this point of your 100X, you are looking for a pick on a side laner that is not Arrow. You want to stay as far away from that champion as possible. See if you can sneak Chad Jungle into a play like this one to try to set up some sort of fight, because you're not winning any straight up fight at this point in the game.
I do like that at least 100X aren't giving up on the plays here, recognizing that not all 5 members of Wildcard Red are stacked up. They'll be able to take down the mid lane tower, giving them a little bit more access to the rest of the map. Question is, for me, how can they use it? It looks like they're trying for a play in this bot side, but Brandini isn't going down anytime soon. With Bradley here as backup, I don't know if anybody from Wildcard is going to fall, though Bradley, once again defying expectations, going to go in, use the Zanyas a little late, and end up going down. But that doesn't matter to Winston.
Brandini's alive.
On board. Brandini's fine. He has the Gore Drinker. He had the ult running. There's no threat of him dying. The thing you have to be afraid of is 100X, because they're going down.
Oh my god, Dio, we panned away from Brandini diving under the tier 2, tier 3 turret onto Gamsu. I think maybe we thought he was dead. I think the camera thought he was dead. We come back, he's full HP. What is going on there? Like you said, all of that life steal from the Gore Drinker just coming
He doesn't
through,
even use the Gore Drinker, DJ.
he didn't even. I mean, we literally our pro view here, whatever the directed cam had literally given up on Brandini, and he comes back with full health after killing Gamsu to help win the fight for Wildcard Red. It's just an exhibition at this point, Dia. And honestly, Baron on the map now. Wildcard Red just going to be looking for one decisive fight here, and I think that may just be enough to close this game out.
Yeah, when it's looking as convincing as this, it honestly feels like Wildcard, they can brute force that Baron. They can take that and just make it the end of the game, because it's not like this composition is great at diving just on its face, but when you've got an almost 10,000 gold lead, 9,000 just 1k off, it's really not going to make that much of a difference whether you're taking a few extra turret shots or not, especially now that double Zanyas has been completed. You've got the Gore Drinker on Brandini, and Arrow hasn't mispositioned once.
Yep, just that one death to his name from that sort of ill-advised Drake fight early on in the game. That is literally it. Oh, they're going to run him down.
I mean, they're engaging with an equalizer. Their good hook lands, but Busio, an even better one, does take him to safety. Still, 100 forced out of their own jungle here. Good Zanyas from Winston keeps him alive for now. A teleport onto the Lantern as well is going to bring in all the backup as Young comes crashing down into the front lines with Brandini there to tank everybody up. Will 100X even kill one member? It doesn't look like the answer is going to be yes, because it's Wildcard Red that roll all over them. And this deck certainly is looking stacked, DJ, because Wildcard Red, they're going to break the base now, and they might just win the game.
Yeah, it's all aces here for Wildcard Red. Even though Chad Jungle survives, this deck is impossible to overcome. The odds are literally zero here. It's basically a Vegas table now for 100X. They are as far out of this game as you could possibly believe. Winning is over the horizon and beyond as Wildcard Red clean them out of their own jungle. They're going to take down the tier 3 mid turret, head back to the Baron to take that one for free and look to end the game likely on their next push.
Now, we've got to talk, of course, about the next game, because as much as, 100X could theoretically, in a 40-minute game where Wildcard Red turn off their monitors, be able to come back from this, it's looking unlikely. And if you're 100X, you're not planning on that. You're planning based on what has happened to this game, what you do to adapt into the next game. And that brings me to the question of what happened for 100X this game, because I actually didn't see them do anything, and that felt like their biggest problem.
Yeah, I think that is the problem, is that what happened is nothing happened, and you can't draft this comp and have nothing happen. Look at Chad Jungle's scoreline. He's on Kha'Zix. He's 1, 2, and 7. 8 kill participation, sure, but 1 kill, that is not enough. And it's not like all 10 of those kills came at the start of the game, Dia. These are later kills, picks onto Bradley. This is cleanup from team fights. This is not what you wanted from this comp. They could not get unlocked from their lanes. They could not find the timers to get away from the members of Wildcard Red. And I don't remember them really TPing into any sort of fight to contest a big Drake, to contest the Scuttle. It really was just Wildcard Red understanding how they needed to win this game. Don't get sucked in. They did it really one time around Drake, but otherwise they just built up farm leads. They just let Winston go through camps whenever 100 Thieves tried to make a play. They just backed off. They stayed safe. They didn't let the game snowball away. And all of a sudden, you're looking at a 2K gold lead. The next team fight, Arrow's killing everyone, and the game's just practically over as they take this Baron down. So if you are 100X, and this is how you want to play, you've got to do more. You have got to plan more for those early 3 levels. Have some sort of 3-level plan. See if you can gank on the 3rd wave, dive on the 3rd wave. And if you want to do that, I think the biggest thing to start with, get rid of this Kha'Zix.
Absolutely. This is something that really didn't net 100X anything and hasn't been a problem for Wildcard Red at all As we're going to see, not quite the red-white here for Arrow, but very, very close. Definitely a signal to 100X that they don't want to be contesting for this. Daption, however, definitely wants to fight. What is this Kha'Zix doing? Likely dying seems to be the answer there, as he gets chunked out while Houdini Brandini literally just zones out 3 people with the help of Bradley, who won't go down this time, instead claiming 2 kills. Another one goes down. Make it a 4th. As another kill comes in for Winston this time around. Wildcard, like you said earlier in the game, they don't even care about the Dragons at this point, because the Dragons aren't what they're relying on to win them the game. They can do it by brute force alone.
Yeah, the disgusting part of all this, Dia, is they didn't need to take that fight. There was no need to take that fight. Wildcard Red had Baron. They could have just said, here, Dragon's yours. We're just going to push down mid and take your inhibitor in the mid lane. Instead, they say, nah, we want this fight. We want the KDA. We want to wipe you off the map. They will do so. They will clean up the base, and this is looking like game 1.
Well, yeah, with almost a 15,000 gold lead at the 25-minute mark, Wildcard Red, they're going to look to make it a little bit more. Zanya's still available for Arrow back here. Should be able to use it, but actually doesn't have to, as right on top of him goes Gamsu. Finally going to go golden. It is the Aphelios, and no kills once again are going to go over 200 Thieves next, as the Nexus Tower is going to fall. Nexus shortly to follow, and Wildcard Red convincingly clap back with game 1.
Yes, they do. They clap back from day 1 in game 1 here against 100X, and what a clapping it was, Dia. They understood their win conditions. They farmed up safe. They got a small gold lead, and the second that 100X made a big mistake, they were punished ruthlessly by Wildcard Red. And Arrow on this Aphelios has been so incredible throughout this early run in the Proving Ground circuit. He does it once again. Doesn't even lead the damage charts, though. That honor goes over to Brandini here with 20,000. Nevertheless, Arrow 11, 1, and 12. And if we look at the notes I typed for today, Dia, about Arrow, they said one thing. They said God. And that's about what he was in game number 1.
They're pretty short, to be sure. And that's despite Daption actually getting the early kills as well. That we didn't really touch on, because we believed in Wildcard Red, but it's certainly something that you would otherwise in many other games go, that's not exactly ideal. Even with sub-ideal situations, Wildcard Red really did make the most of it. Not to say if 100X can make the most of this subpar situation, because going into game 2, they need to win a game for this best of 3. We'll find out if they can right after this.
Awake to my voice and hear the call within. Embrace the fear inside. Surrender your mind to mine again.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the second game this time of the second day of Risen Champions League between Wildcard Red and 100X. I keep thinking I'm going to trip on that, DJ, but I haven't just yet. I think I'm taking my time just fine. And
you're nailing it.
Yeah, thank you. I was gonna take us into a smooth transition here. You know who took their time really well last game was 100 Thieves Next, and unfortunately, it took a little bit too much time to get rolling. I'm hoping this time they can pick up the pace a little.
Yeah, they did very much take their time on a composition that didn't have a lot of time. Their composition was the kind of comp that's late to work on the freeway, driving 90 as fast as you can, thinking that Google Maps is inaccurate and that you have more power than physics do. That was a comp that needed to win in 20 minutes, particularly with the Kazakhs in Chad Jungle's hands. And they really didn't have a great plan for it there, Dia. We saw a nice play around the first Drake. They got the extra kill. They got the Drake and got out. But after that, we just watched Wildcard Red just slowly build up CS advantages. We watched Winston run away with jungle camps, and 100 Thieves never found an angle for Chad to get involved. They never found an odd man out. They never looked for a pick. And I can't remember a Galio ulti that was used for any sort of pick. They were all used in team fighting situations. And Wildcard Red are happy to team fight post 6. They've got that Aatrox. They've got Winston with his Rumble ultimate. They've got Bradley hopping into the backline. And in those team fights, it all fell apart for 100X as Wildcard Red just flexed on them.
Now, my question going into this next game is, what's the adaptation going to look like? Because you've got a few options as 100 Thieves Next, and they're sort of two-faced. One is to double down, to say we're going to do that again and we're going to adapt our gameplay. And the other one is to say we're not going to try and move our gameplay. Very clearly, we already have an inbuilt idea of how we want to play the game. Let's try and adapt the draft to that. And that's what we get to find out right now, is we're going to start off the draft with not too much that's different from last game. Still taking away the Gwen, but we'll see how things evolve.
Yeah, at least 100X now on the blue side, so they will get the power pick available to them, should change the pick bans here. And if you're asking me for changes, I want a little bit more focus here on Chad Jungle. I want to get him on something he can look comfortable on. That Kazakhs just seemed kind of out of left field. It seemed like a reach after Wildcard had banned away all of his prior picks, basically, from yesterday against Wildcard Black, from previous games. So I want them to give him some more agency, and then either, if you're going to give him that agency, look to play around him on the top side. If you're going to go back to this Kalista, try to split the map. Try to let this bot lane like really get ahead, or do something to try to build a lead. Those are kind of your two options when you're drafting like this. But I vastly prefer the first, because I think Chad Jungle looked great yesterday, and I think you should get him his comfort back.
I think it's interesting that 100X are also paying respect to some things that accelerated the pace of the game, specifically with their unorthodox engages, especially speaking of that Rumble ult, but of course the hooks from Daption as well. That definitely played a part in picking up the pace for Wildcard Red once they were ahead. Now won't have those tools going into the next game. Wildcard Red, of course, taking a lot of the safety away from AD carries in that bot side. Not as many top side bans this time, though. Might just let Brandini start to run things over.
Yeah, might just let Brandini, although we saw him look really good on that Aatrox, so maybe you can't ban out his jungle pool like 100X tried to in game number 1. Nevertheless, Akali once again going to be the B1 priority. Both teams recognizing the value of that champion, but in a bit of a twist potentially from yesterday, we might see Bradley hop onto the Viego that Young looked so good against. Looked so good on against Wildcard Black. I'm tripping up my words here, and it does get locked in. So Young gonna be facing down the champion that made him a king yesterday against Wildcard Red's counterpart.
Well, yeah, we'll see if he can, or sorry, if Bradley can ruin him, as would be so appropriate given the champion. Xin Zhao here as well is an interesting denial, because we were talking in between the games about how it was Chad Jungle that actually looked really good on this pick yesterday, and now it's an option that gets denied going into game 2 where they're already behind.
Yeah, this is the cost of that Akali B1 here, right? You give away the Viego right back into it. It's a matchup you were happy with yesterday. Wildcard Red clearly happy with it. And now your premier jungler pick has also been taken away and Rumble is off the table. So we might see Chad Jungle be forced to reach again just a little bit here. I do like the lock-in of the Lee Sin. This is something that he's been comfortable on in the past. And we have seen that junglers who have a lot of proficiency on Lee Sin and know how to play around it can pick this up, even though it's not quite fitting the full clear meta. We have seen it work. So this can be a flex for 100x and at least gives them an option in case they want it there as we go into phase 2.
And they maintain the illusion of the flex as well with the Lee Sin not having locked in another top laner yet. We still got that sort of flexibility in the champion since they do choose to go with that Senna. But Senna also sort of indicates a playstyle that 100x have sort of given up right now. More often than not, it's going to be the fasting Senna in the bot lane. It's going to be pretty passive down there. So Wildcard Red, they can choose to play an aggressive bot lane or something that can scale up on a hyper carry and sort of play this whichever way they like.
Yeah, and we see that Leona come down here to give the support, to give the engage that they do want, get on top of this Senna, and not really give away what bot laner they want to pair with it. The Tom Kench immediately taken off the table. They do not want that. And when you do have this much engage already, I can understand that. 100x, I kind of like the Senna here, though. We were talking about that we want a little more focus on Chad Jungle. Get him involved in the game. He was completely out of that game number 1, and there's no better way to do that than to pick something like a Senna with a safe support. You could have gone for the Ezreal if it wasn't banned away, for example, and really focus on staying safe in the bot lane, getting either roams from your support or just focus on top side and really help Chad Jungle try to have more impact on the map. I think that was a set ban that we saw there, Dia. So that one going to be taken away from 100x. The Ziggs has been taken away. That's been rising in priorities. I do get confirmation it is a set here for both Minwee and for APA on Resolve. So I like to see that ban come away. We'll see what 100x are going to round it out with here before Wildcard Red gets their critical R4 pick.
Interestingly, the options are pretty limited, but you still got a choice as 100x because things like Maokai and even things like Wukong have been flexed into the bot lane before. With that Senna, they get riskier than things like the Tom Kench in the set, of course. So I want to see what direction they end up going, because the other option, of course, is to just let Senna be a support as Riot intended.
As Riot intended. Yeah, sure. We'll see what the R4 pick is. You can definitely leave that up, and if it ain't broke, I guess don't fix it here. There is no Thresh. Now that one's banned away in phase 1, so Arrow will have to rely much more on himself to stay alive in this game, and there is an Akali on the enemy team composition, so it is a very risky pick here for Arrow, but I'll be honest, I have seen this man do this time and time again here, Dia. I'm confident he can, but 100x look like they don't want to make his life any easier as they hover this Gragas.
God, I just really want the Wukong. Gragas is good. Gragas does a similar thing from a little bit more safe of a distance and also gets that tankiness right, but the option here is really one that's meant to disrupt the Aphelios, meant to keep Arrow from popping off again in a subsequent game and even buying perhaps a little bit of space from that Viego. A Galio as well actually leads me to believe that that might be the flex into the support role, and we could see a Gragas top lane.
Yeah, I think that is what it's going to be here. It could be Gragas jungle, though. We've seen a couple people play this.
That's true.
A little bit of flexibility potentially here at 400x, depending on what Gamsu wants in that top lane. We are still potentially waiting for Wildcard Red's top laner, so perhaps providing a little bit of an illusion. If it is Gragas top, which has been heavily nerfed over the last 4 months or so, mana can be an issue, but it will just be a tanky body up there, and Silas is the pickup for Wildcard Red. I like this a lot. We were lacking the AP damage. That's going to allow him to steal a lot of valuable ultimates. The Gragas barrel, probably the most notable one outside of the Galio Heroes entrance. And he can have a good matchup into either Tank Gragas or into the Lee Sin. So nice adaptation here from Wildcard Red. And I do believe they'll be able to put whichever one of these champions in either lane. I will guess, though, that this is Bradley Silas.
I like it, and I like the flexibility that they already had sort of in build being able to actually be used, because so often you do see things that are technically flexes. I wanted to say like the Lee Sin, although we still don't know where the Lee Sin is going, but things like the Karma sort of be picked up and you're like, well, it's a flex, but it's really going into the mid lane, right? And you can kind of predict it from minute one. Wildcard Red definitely defy expectations here. And for 100 Thieves, that gets dangerous because they're a team that is already behind in the game score and could just go down with no games to their name in the second day of Risen Champions if they're not careful.
Yeah, certainly could. And after a very nice win against Wildcard Black, it would be a little bit disappointing probably to drop 2-0 here to Wildcard Red. Not going to get that back-to-back Wildcard wins if you are 100x. So they will have to be on their game. Again, I like a bit of the adaptation here. I like that we get the Senna, a more passive scaling bottom lane. It gives them a late game option. And we do see Gamsu take that Lee Sin into the top lane here. So it will be a Gragas jungle here for Chad Jungle. Not quite the sort of hard carry scaling sort of full clear junglers we've seen, but we have seen multiple junglers at the highest level make this effective. You're going to want to get some ganks off. You're going to want to get picks and use that barrel in team fights. Hopefully Chad Jungle has reset here after that struggle in game number 1 and is ready to provide with this champion.
Now, you have hope, DJ, and I respect that. In fact, I encourage it, but I'm going to be a little bit pessimistic here and say that I'm not expecting Chad Jungle to have that big of an early impact, but even so, I think the Gragas pick is likely the best thing for that because he's sort of got this ubiquitous presence throughout the game. There's a lot of build diversity here as the game evolves for Chad Jungle to be able to adapt even later on, even after that first mythic comes in, to suit the needs of his team, that being able to play this a little bit more slow and controlled rather than needing to go into the route of this assassin skirmisher on the Kha'Zix is still something that, despite what I'm expecting to be lack of early action, still gives 100 Thieves an edge.
Yeah, it can certainly give them an edge. A well-placed Gragas barrel in a team fight is always going to be a huge deciding factor. And again, this time around, they have scaling options. They have a little bit of front to back here as that Gragas, gets some more items, gets some more health, not too much tankiness. As Lee Sin can even frontline a little bit. The Galio is there, and there's always the looming threat of that Senna on the back line. And if Young can play the Sakali anything like Bradley did, we know how much time this champion can buy in the enemy backline, how much damage it can do to someone like Arrow, who absolutely demolished game number 1 on this Aphelios, now without the Thresh next to him for the extra shielding and protection. One thing I do want to say is this has, like you said, forfeited a bit of the early game to Wildcard. Wildcard still have that Aphelios option for the late game, but their top side of the map, much more skirmish heavy this time around. The Xin Zhao should be able to slightly outclear Gragas. He will definitely out-skirmish Gragas, and he should have some priority from his lanes as well as we tick up those levels.
Well, let's go ahead and take a quick break before we get into the game. Find out what happens once we hit the Rift as the second game of Wildcard Red versus 100X. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the second game in the second day of Risen Champions League between Wildcard Red and 100 Thieves next. It's been, well, shall we say, a surprising journey here, as I don't want to say that I expected Wildcard Red not to do well. I expected them to do well, as all of you should in the chat tuning into a Wildcard stream. You know what you're getting. But did I expect them to crush 100 Thieves? No, I didn't. And in the second game, I'm hoping that my expectations from the first game are met, and 100 Thieves actually get to put up a fight.
Yeah, I hope so too. And, from an analytical perspective here, Dia, hold on here, Brandini. Okay, Chad Jungle just going to walk into his face. Yeah, I mean, he should be fine. He is going to have to reset. Wait, Brandini's walking into 3.
He could be in a little bit of trouble here. Has some backup from his squad, though, and as much as the egos are being thrown around the rift here, nothing going to spell disaster for any one member in particular. Although, Chad Jungle's back does get denied for a pretty significant amount of time here. He may have to start the jungle at subpar health, one might say.
Yeah, he's wheeling around here. I'm actually interested to watch his pathing. He might just be going straight to red buff. Hopefully he is okay, but we'll keep our eyes on Winston, see if he decides to invade off that information if and when they do get it. There is a ward around that Raptors pit, so give you an update here in a minute or so if there is some action off of that vision as regular laning does commence here, Dia. But back to your point about 100X needing to fight back. I was saying, from an analytical perspective, I have some issues with the Gragas and the Akali here in the mid-jungle duo. Itemization pretty easy against them. The Gragas not going to clear or duel as well as Winston Jin Zhao, but this is a pick that Chad Jungle can have impact in skirmishes on, in team fights, and they get some more scaling options here. So from the perspective of the game plan didn't quite work in game number 1, I like the adaptation here in draft from 100X, and I do hope they can put up a better fight with all the CC they have this time that they can throw at Arrow.
It's really a game that should largely be determined by whether they can delete priority targets quickly and efficiently. You mentioned Arrow, but we're also taking a look, of course, at Brandini on the Viego, who, if left untouched, can become a problem. But already, problems are rising heavily in this bot lane, as one can only expect from Arrow on Aphelios and Daption on a support that can back him up.
Yep, Daption getting that engaged support on once again here with the Leona. Classically an Enchanter player, but he was one of the innovators of the Rel in spring. And when the Wildcard Red does need the CC, he is on it, and he has been very good at those engaged champions, particularly next to Arrows of Aphelios here. So already trying to establish some lane control, but fortunately that Senna's in here for Instinct. It's got the healing, it's got the sustain, it's got the range, and they should be just fine. As you can see, their HP bars already ticked back up to full.
Now we're cresting about the 3-minute mark. It's time to check in on our junglers, because we were wondering if Chad Jungle was going to get invaded, and by and large, he is. Winston, taking advantage of that early health that was burned off the Gragas, walks into the jungle and just takes away a Gromp. It's as easy as it can be, and it's what we expected, but in the bot lane, things are going a little bit unexpectedly. Daption, albeit, takes a little bit of a poor trade.
Yeah, goes into the turret there, just a little too aggressive, but look back at Winston here. This is brutal for Chad Jungle. He's going to lose his Gromp. He's going to lose his Wolves here as well. Neither Scuttle Crab has been taken, and the bottom lane of Wildcard has priority. Winston's even trying to make a gank.
Oh, and it's a little ambitious, I'll say. The Akali especially pretty slippery, but hey, you already have the world. Why not try for a little bit more? Because Winston right now is running the rift, and Chad Jungle this time, it's not that he isn't doing anything, it's that he's not allowed to do anything.
Yeah, he's literally not allowed to do anything. Young is half HP. He's been pushed in by Bradley, who's had a great laning phase here. He got chased out of his jungle by Winston. There was no help available to him because of his lane states. And the bottom lane of Wildcard Red took his Scuttlebug. This is brutal for Chad Jungle. He's been double scuttled. He's down 3 camps here. He needs to make something happen with this gank.
Bradley pretty low on mana, shouldn't be able to avoid it. Does have that flash, but gets ignited there, and is going to tick down under the tower. First blood does go to 100 Thieves Young, and that is exactly what we were hoping for. The early execution off of the Gragas, even though set behind, does find something, and there's still hope for this roster.
Yeah, that was huge for Chad Jungle. He needed to make something happen, and he does. A little bit of a misplay, I think, from Bradley. He had his support in his pocket. Daption was coming up. I think he was hoping to bait someone in, and I do believe that's the reason he doesn't flash the initial body slam. He ends up flashing late and losing his life anyway. A little unfortunate for the Wildcard Red mid laner there as he tried to make a big play happen, and his mistake will allow Chad Jungle some breathing room back into this game.
Now, some of you may have noticed, I saw 100 Thieves Young teleport earlier, and also Bradley died to Ignite. And you'd be correct. He's got those two summoners, and unfortunately, it means that killing Bradley is just that easy. Gets back up from Chad Jungle on repeat, and unfortunately, there's no counterplay for this Sylas, and now we've got a Fed Akali on the board, something that can definitely take Wildcard Red's game plans and turn them on their heads.
Absolutely it can, because there's no Thresh this time around. It's going to have great access to Arrow all game long, and we wanted Young to be a hero in game number 1, but it was on a Galio deal. There's only so much. You really have to overcome the limitations of that champion if you want to be the hero for your team. On an Akali, you can be whatever you want if you've got the damage, if you've got the hands, and Young definitely does. Really like the adaptation here from Chad Jungle. Has a rough early game, but finds the critical plays to make things happen for 100 Thieves next. They are up in gold. They have a fed mid laner now, and things are going well here in game number 2.
I want to see the conversion on this Akali as well, because Young isn't going to be enough. You sit in the mid lane and you farm up Sylas, who will be impactful no matter what, being able to steal away things like the Galio and the Gragas, provide a little bit of safety to his backline. It needs to be a translation and a deletion of players in the top side and the bot side, namely Brandini, who finds himself in a little bit of skirmish now. Might just be feeding into exactly what we were hoping Young would be able to get away with over the wall, though, with the Blast Cone will take him to safety. As, well, Wildcard Red, they're definitely playing the riskier hand.
Yeah, they certainly are. There appear to be a couple of cracks here, I think, in the comms for Wildcard Red. And again, maybe some of those new roster hiccups here as Brandini is just in the river trying to kind of help or scout out the Scuttle Crab take in that top river, while his jungler is basing from the other side of the map, taking the dragon. So just a little bit of lack of comms here. Meanwhile, engaged in the bottom lane.
Oh yeah, here the comms never do fail. An instinct very low will barely survive. As Wildcard Red at least won't be taking an L down there. This support ADC duo are never gonna say die, and it's something that 100 Thieves have to address if they want to overcome the ensuing team fights with an Aphelios on the other side.
Yeah, it's a 20 CS lead or so here for Arrow already. Winston's just running into 2.
This is a problem. Winston does still have the not directional, but
he's alive!
Ranged invulnerability to manage to survive, and Chad Jungle might not be so lucky as Daption flashes for the Zenith Blade. A double kill goes back to Bradley, and all of a sudden, we're back in the game.
Oh, it's a tragedy for 100X. Their win condition, their lead just evaporates in front of their eyes by a sliver of HP. Winston is one of the strong members here for Wildcard Red after he's been enabled all early game. We talked about how far Chad Jungle is behind. Well, that's because Winston's been all up in his face, taking his camps, getting all of the objectives that he's wanted. Chad Jungle made the plays he needed to in the mid lane to get Young ahead, but Winston with that lead, he just dashes into 2. He lives with a sliver of HP, and Young is the member that falls initially. That's your lead. That is your strong mid laner. That's the shutdown. And Wildcard Red just take all the hope and they crush it in their palm.
That is so tragic for them. And now they've got a 1,000 gold lead, thank you, as a Wildcard Red that they can do with as they like. With a Sylas that is now even back in the game here, not too far behind in CS, and a jungler, like you mentioned, who's dominating. They're the ones that make it look as if as if 100 Thieves didn't actually get to do anything in the early game as we expected. Not saying they didn't, because Chad Jungle definitely adapted, but a big play, of course, from the jungle once again on the other side makes it all that much more difficult. And we go back to this question of, do the comps match up?
Yeah, and the comps are not going to match up here in the coming minutes, Dia. The next Drake spawning in 2 minutes. And I would say right now, Wildcard Red still have the skirmishing advantage. There's no mythic item yet on Young. That's really the breaking point he needs to try to full assassinate someone. He did stop off to get the Oblivion Orb to help him in lane. That's not quite going to help him shred through someone like Arrow, someone like Winston. I think the one item power spikes that are approaching very quickly here for Wildcard Red are going to be much stronger for them. Arrow's one item, Winston's one item, and Brandini's one item in particular should be very big spikes for them, and they should be looking to skirmish here around these Drakes and around these mid-game objectives in the coming 5 minutes.
And it's worth noting, of course, that Wildcard Red already have that first dragon. And while it is a Cloud Drake, one of the actual very nice independent Drakes to have, what it does, even if they can't finish off a soul in the next couple dragons, is buy them time. Time for an Aphelios, time for a Viego, and time for a Silas as well, all of whom are going to benefit from a longer game, as we might be seeing Gamsu going down in this top lane with Brandini, not fearing a thing in the world, going aggressive here, and might be able to even pick up the kill. The good flash almost takes Gamsu to safety. It's not going to be enough.
Yeah, Brandini, nice job there. I actually thought Gamsu had outplayed them as they both went over the wall, but the flash over kills him before the Dawning Shadow can arrive, and down goes Gamsu once again. And a little bit of a struggle here for Gamsu. He had a CS lead in this game, never really got it going in game number 1. It took him so long to even get to a mythic item. And now once again has been set behind one of the carries here for Wildcard in this game. At the very least, they will make a nice cross map here. A lot of plating goes down. And remember, Instinct is their late game win condition this time around, because this time around they actually have one.
It's nice. It's nice to have that little bit to rely on. Although with Senna, it really does become pretty inconsequential if you're not actually able to find kills in those mid-game fights, because remember, she's not getting the CS. What she is getting is scaling, but if we take a look at where people are relative to their mythics, Instinct is still pretty far away, whereas Winston has already completed his, and well, Arrow's going to get his pretty soon as well, after securing the second dragon, no less, an Infernal that will only help Wildcard Red in the damage department. Game's still an uphill one for 100 Thieves next, and we're going to need to see some big plays, specifically out of Chad Jungle once again, who the play really does fall to, and Young, who's working still on a Fed Akali to put Wildcard Red behind before they rise.
Yeah, and much the opposite of last game here, Dia. I think in the next couple of minutes, hold on here, Young.
We'll find out. Let's see. I don't think Bradley goes aggressive on this. He does have the next proc, the perfect execution to escape as well, so shouldn't be any action. 100 Thieves next going to back away after having pulled Instinct up as well. Check out who's getting free farm off that.
Yep, just free farm for Arrow, and that's another scary prospect here. I was just about to say, I think much the opposite of last game, Dia. We should be looking for Wildcard Red to push the tempo here in this mid-game at the moment. They are up about 600-700 gold, anywhere from 700 to 1,000, depending on the wave states. And they have the skirmishing comp. They have the strong comp. And you can see the items coming in. Divine Sunder completed here for Winston. Everyone else is getting close. Their one item power spike should be stronger. They're trying to punish Gamshu before that, though.
Good teleport here is going to keep Gamsu alive, but it's a summoner now denied. 200 Thieves, a tool that they don't have. And thankfully, Busio does have another global in his pocket, but doesn't make this particularly easier. Winston might get punished. We'll have to see how this one plays out. Does have the flash, so we're going to play respectfully here. And notice that 100 Thieves can't actually push too far into their own jungle because they don't have vision.
Yeah, they don't have vision, and they didn't have the first move from Young either. The wave shoved in there by Bradley. Everything will just reset a little bit. Scuttlebug taken here from the top side. As again, I like the response from 100X here. We were just talking about the fact that Wildcard want to push the tempo, and 2 separate potential dive attempts there are shut down. Yes, it costs a teleport from the side of 100X, but you need to defend yourself at the moment. You are not as strong as this wildcard composition. You need to get to some item breakpoints where you can assassinate, burst out these carries, particularly Brandini and Arrow, when the fight arrives and when your jungler, Chad Jungle, will be likely at his most effective. If you're not getting a pure pick on that Gragas, your barrel is best used to split up a big team fight around some sort of objective. I think they're looking very hard at this Mountain Drake in 2 minutes, 30 seconds here, Dia, as the place where they're going to put their foot down and try to fight on one mythic item before Wildcard can really get enough gold to get to 2 items.
The thing that worries me here is the adaptation that we've already seen from Wildcard Red, because they're playing with respect. Check out the item on Arrow, the Gale Force this time, as opposed to the Kraken Slayer that we saw last game, recognizing that the extra damage is not going to be nearly as helpful as being able to get out of the Death Ball that we've already identified as being 100 Thieves 1 win condition.
Oh boy, here, I think Gamsu is absolutely dead this time. Oh no, he is. It's devastating. Dia, there's no one in sight here for 100x. And look across the map. What are they doing with this lead? They're going to get one wave in mid, maybe, for this. This is exactly what you want to do. Oh, they're going to be slow. It's going to be too slow. Keep your eyes on to Daption. He's coming.
Remember, we still have Arrow with the Gale Force. Gets out of here. Does end up burning the Flash to buy some space from the Galio as well. And there's backup coming on a teleport for Wildcard. Will they be able to survive? It seems like Daption's okay. And it's going to be Brandini who gets rooted up. Nope. Good play for them. But they keep 100 Thieves next from being able to find a kill of their own. While in the meantime, Winston gets to chill up topside, securing the second Rift Herald of the game.
Yep, this is still exactly what Wildcard Red wants to be doing. They're putting pressure across the map. They're exploding their gold lead here, bursting up to 3K now, exactly like we talked about. They know they have the agency. They have the strength. They want to make these plays and shut members down. And it's, well, 100x try to do their best. They try to get the cross map, but Daption's just reading it. He comes in from the mid lane after making sure that wave is stable for Bradley. He gets there at the right time. It costs Arrow a couple summoners, but that's a worthwhile trade for all of the gold and kills you just picked up leading up to this Drake in 30 seconds.
Now with the 3,000 gold lead, let's see if they can finish off around that drag and almost all the mythics hit.
3 mythics to 2.
That Divine Sunderer on
4.
Brandini. Gonna do a lot of work. Teleport coming into the mid lane. 100 Thieves next. Want to fight for this, but first they need that mid lane priority.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. It's a fight for mid lane prio. That's why this Rift Herald is dropped as well. They want to use it as a diversion. Again, keep in mind here, it's 4 mythic items to 2 for Wildcard. 100x have not gotten to their spikes. I don't think in a normal situation they really want to fight this. I think they're very far behind, but it's Dragon Soul. They can't let this go.
I really like that Winston is taking the front line as well, does have the Xin Zhao ultimate, the Crescent Guard, to be able to bypass a lot of the damage from 100 Thieves next. We'll see if they choose to engage as the Dragon's already being focused by Wildcard Red. This is the fight, and already it's Bradley and Brandini in your backside. The engage comes through with a big Zenith Blade from Daption, and on the backline, Arrow is completely untouched. Finally, though, with Young on top of him, the Ignite down. It's not going to be the kill finished off as Young ends up falling, and you have no threat now onto the backline of Wildcard. Brandini is all over yours, already taken over the ground. Here goes for the ultimate, is going to fall under the tower, and Bradley can't finish off the kill either. It's a very close fight in kills under the tower, but the actual fight around the dragon has already been won by Wildcard Red.
Brandini goes absolutely mad in the fight. They're doing so much damage, staying alive for so long on this champion underneath and in between the 100x mid lane turrets. What a fight from Wildcard Red. Beautiful stuff, denying the initial entry from Young over the wall. The double solar flare on Daption. They're catching out 2 members of 100x. It's completely won from that point on. They split the fight up. Young tries to do everything he can on the back line. It's not enough against 3. And Brandini and Winston are your cleanup crew for Wildcard Red in the mid lane. They take down the fight. They take the 3rd Drake, and they are 1 step away from successfully snowballing this game with a Mountain Soul.
I have got to say as well that Brandini is providing this sort of hidden value that ends up making that fight a whole lot more convincing, and it's the ability to apply grievous wounds. He's the one person with an Executioners here, and the fact that he's on top of 3 people, all of whom can heal, is really, really big for them in that fight. Bradley doesn't have the grievous wounds, but he does have the perfect execution in the top lane. It almost does the trick. Chad Jungle under the tower going to be able to escape, but Daption's coming up here. It could be another play for Wildcard Red. Solar Flare going to connect. Young going to go down, and under to the tower. Doesn't look like Chad Jungle's long for the world either. Winston going to be taken down right outside the tower range, though, and we'll see who ends up coming out on top as Arrows finally arrived back in. The Petricite Burst for Bradley doing a lot of work, but for right now, 100X are maintaining control of their top side tower.
The wave's coming in, though. I think they're going to get domed.
Oh, no. Daption goes in again, and it's going to be Gamsu that gets taken down by a beautiful Moonlight Vigil out of Arrow. Almost cleaning up another kill as Busio here is going to fall right after the tower, and you just keep feeding kills into the meat grinder of Wildcard Red.
Triple kill over for Arrow, and they make it look so pretty here, Dia. That is the type of tower dive that in another game with another team, you could see go so very wrong. Multiple turret shots tanked by multiple members. Their jungler falls, but in the end, it's all worth it. Everyone was moving up. Everyone was on the same page, and they danced around that turret, around the wave, so very brilliantly. Bradley tanking it up at the end, getting his HP back with the Kingslayer. Lovely stuff, lovely rotations, and Wildcard Red are back, baby. They look coordinated, and they are poised to win this match here in 2-0 fashion over 100X.
And I mean, we didn't even get to talk about the fact that, they're one away from Mountain Soul now as well. They're unkillable, really, at this point, and that's to say nothing of the fact that Arrow hasn't even died once yet. It's not going to happen this game, no way.
I don't think he is. They're working, like you said, they're working towards the Mountain Soul. Young was accelerated in this game. He has Riftmaker now, but again, having to stop off for the Oblivion Orb is not really the item he's wanted to have. You can see he hasn't been able to take down Arrow just yet. I think Daption's going to be very close to providing the support. I'm blanking on the name of the support item there. The locket of the Iron Solari to provide the extra shielding that Arrow will want in the fights. And again, it's that 2-item mark here for Aphelios when he really takes off with that Runon's Hurricane. So Arrow, once again, a monster here on the Rift, the unkillable Demon King of NA Amateur, if you will, Dia, as he is 4-0-1, primed with Wildcard to take this one home. And if that Drake does go down, I think the option, there is a slight window for 100X before this Mountain Soul to try to get some sort of pick before Baron and make something happen. If that Mountain Soul goes down, I don't think Arrow dies the rest of the game, and I think Wildcard are just walking this one into the base.
And here's the thing, is that the requirement isn't even that team fight. It's set up for that team fight as well, because right now, Arrow's still working with a Flash, still working with a fully functioning Gale Force, and if he has either one of those up, it's really, really difficult 400 Thieves to actually find the kill onto him, even using the likes of Young and Busio, who can dive into the back line essentially for free. You need to burn one of those tools, and then try and find the kill in a team fight. And that alone is going to be so ridiculously difficult. Right now, though, I do like the move where 100 Thieves are grouping up, trying to do whatever they can with the most power that they can muster at this point in the game, especially as this dragon is coming up in 20 seconds.
30 seconds here. Yeah, 20 seconds, excuse me. And battle for vision going on here. For the first time, really, Wildcard don't have perfect control of the river. And there's a flank from Gamsu here. Grandini's dead.
I've seen this story before. This is the Brandini flank that gets caught out, but still turns into a win for Wildcard Red, because that's a story that we saw in Game 1 on the Aatrox and seems to be playing out again right in front of us, because Winston, he's literally 1v3ing right now, finds himself the second kill of the team fight, and it's only going to get worse as he gets joined by the rest of the squad, able to put out immense amounts of damage. Speaking of Arrow, who just walks up, completes the ace, and gets to push right back into the mid lane as his jungler is going to take Soul for him.
Oh my god, Winston, stop, man. That's just disgusting. He literally just sat in the middle of 3 members there, healing more than they were doing to him. This champion is busted. Winston is busted. The item Divine Sunder is busted. That was disgusting. You lose one of your main carries here, Brandini, right at the start of the fight. But just like you said, Dia, just a mirror image of game number 1. The flank caught out, a big member down. It doesn't matter a bit. What is this TP?
So, wait, we're going to pause for a moment of silence, because that right there, that's an F in the chat. May Busio rest in peace. And it looks like that's going to apply to the rest of the members as well, because apparently 100 Thieves Next, they didn't get quite enough that first time. They've come back for seconds, and that's going to be 2 more players going down, likely 3 here as the Gravitum Cannon is doing work, and Bradley doing even more onto Gamsu is going to collect not 1 kill, but maybe even 2, as Chad Jungle is being chased all the way back into the base. The last member left alive here, and you don't even need the Baron at this point. You've basically aced 100 Thieves Next. Wildcard Red might just win the game right here and right now.
Yeah, they could very well. The respawn timers are probably a little too much. Busio's going to come up. It might not be enough to quite end, but the Nexus turrets are definitely going to fall here. At least one. Honestly, Dia, that was reportable. That was absolutely reportable from 100X. I think they recognized the game is over here, but that was just wild amount of TPs and team play there from 100X. And the Nexus turrets are down. Wildcard Red going to play with their food for a bit here, but they will take this series 2-0 over 100X.
And I need to say it, Arrow still hasn't died. Still racking up the KP here. One of the most insane players that we've got in Scouting Grounds. Looks like he might go down this one time so ridiculously low, but again, still manages to survive. They got to end the game before he dies. You can't let this one go tarnished, and that's going to be the end of it. A 2-0 in the favor of Wildcard Red. They might not have started Risen Champions off right, but they're certainly getting back on their feet.
Yeah, they are very much getting back on their feet here. A therapeutic and dominating win for Wildcard Red. They get a lot of comfort. They get through a lot of good drafting here. Arrow gets his Aphelios twice, and he continues his rampage through the Proving Ground circuit on that champion. Now 11-1 on the season for the Aphelios, and really the only person who is still busting that champion out. Although, for the second game in a row, he didn't do the most damage on his team. This time, it's Bradley who snuck in there with like a 16-stack Medjais at the end of the game after dying twice in the early game. So maybe, Arrow's slacking here. Like, clearly, he's just slacking.
Yeah, definitely playing this maybe a little bit too carefully, but I can't say that I don't like it. Pumping up the stats for the end of season. And that'll pay off for him, especially as you get this Aphelios feared more and more. Imagine if you have to start banning Aphelios later on in the tournament. That's the power of being able to pick these unorthodox things and be able to pilot them so well. And Wildcard Red definitely showed us today that that's not the only thing that you need to take away. We take a look at the bans. Thresh and Rumble also banned. Rumble maybe a little bit more common, but having to ban Thresh, that's really rough. And it comes at the cost of giving up other power picks here, giving a lot of room to Brandini, who we didn't talk about nearly as much in game 2, but who dominated game 1 and still had a very strong performance in the second one as well. There's so much to address on this Wildcard Red roster that I wonder if any team in Risen Champions can rise to the challenge of taking them down.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see if anyone but Maryville can.
I already know Maryville has. Maryville is, it's a fluke. It's the first day. We leave that.
It was the first day, and it was Brandini's first day on stage. Speaking of which, I do believe we are waiting in the wings here for an interview from Brandini, if I'm not mistaken. We'll see if and when we do get that. But in the meantime, I will say this looked very scary from Wildcard Red, because this looked a lot better. This looked like a team like we saw in Cup that was gelled, that knew how to win the game, that knew their condition from the off, well-marshaled, well-drafting, and just looked completely ahead of 100X in every facet of the game in this series. So props to Wildcard Red. They bounced back very quickly. They look just as dangerous as they did, and hopefully they can continue that form through Risen Champions.
I do have to ask you, and this is a little bit unrelated, but I couldn't find a time for it during the game because we were, doing stuff like casting people dying. But what do you call the scuttle in the river?
Scuttlebug.
Sorry?
The Scuttlebug?
Where did you learn that?
I think I've just heard like something. I mean, it is a bug, right? I mean, I know it's crab. I know it's crab.
Yeah. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying you're like bugs, crabs, right? They're still part of the same family. It's interesting. It's an interesting differentiation.
Yeah, it just depends on, it really depends on what the word is, what place it has in your mind. For Blabber, always going to be Krub, always going to be Scuttle Krub there. He'll remember that one forever, of course. But for some of us, it's Scuttlebug, Scuttler, whatever it is. It always has a special place in our hearts here in NA, regardless, Dia.
Yeah, I was gonna say go for it. I think that we have the interview waiting. They're waiting for OBS. I don't know how this is working. And am I wrong or am I right, DJ, that we're going to be going to cast some Wildcard Black after this?
Oh, are we?
I don't know. I saw this in the Discord and I went,
Oh, we are. Okay. Stick
Hmm.
around, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to hop over to the Wildcard Black series after this, but we do have to get Brandini on the line first. And I'm honestly very excited to hear from Brandini, the new addition here to the Wildcard roster after Dokla moved to TL Academy. Love to hear his thoughts about how the team is going. And there, I think we do have him. Brandini, welcome. Okay. We're waiting for the audio here.
No, the audio's fine. I think they're waiting for the OBS to come through. They want to see your face. There we go. I see you. All right. Well, hold on. Can I confirm if this is in fact Brandini from the top
Yeah,
lane? We
I
got him in
am the
call.
top laner.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for joining us in the post game here. Obviously, we were pretty hyped on you coming into today. Me and DJ were talking a little bit before the games about how we expected you and Winston to really run the games, and well, we did get a lot from Arrow. I wouldn't say you slacked off by any means. What on earth was going through your head in that Aatrox game one? Because you did really well, but I didn't think that Aatrox was going to come out this tournament.
I think it was just like a good pick in general, like against their champions overall. Like Aatrox really excels against champions that have to like dive on him. Also, their comp is just like really low damage to even like execute me. Like Set can win the early lane, but afterwards it's just I get to do whatever I want, right? And they're not gonna like pile on me. If they pile on me, then I'm quite certain that Arrow and Bradley and such will just carry the rest of the fight.
Yeah, and we definitely saw that play out, particularly in that fight around the, I think, tier 3 bottom lane turret when the camera, if you go back and watch the clip, I don't know if you've seen it yet, the camera literally pans away from you as you dive in on the set with like a quarter of your HP bar. I think the camera thought you were dead, and it comes back and you're just full HP after hitting the rest of their champions. So basically playing out exactly as you did describe there, Brandini. But bigger question for me is, coming back into the amateur scene and the competitive scene after a bit of a break, I think, from the last time we saw you on EG Academy, was it?
Yeah.
Here to the Wildcard Red roster. How has the transition back been? How has it been working with this new set of players, the new coach here in ADFX? And how has the fit been feeling going into your first tournament here in Risen Champions?
It's actually been quite a pleasure, like playing back and screaming and doing everything again. It's felt like a pretty long break from competitive for me. And there are like certain offers that didn't pan out or end up going well. Definitely during my time on like EGA and most academy teams was pretty fun, and it was nice to like even feel it out again. Obviously, it's not as pleasant as it would be an LCS, but just playing with a team overall again feels really nice.
Absolutely, and I mean, you're having the chance to gel with Wildcard Red. Like I say, we expected you and Winston to be synergized coming into today, just because it's two quite good players that we're expecting to be able to run the map. And Top Jungle have a lot of inherent synergy, but coming into the new team, who have you vibed with the most?
I feel like I vibed with most Arrow and Winston. I feel like. I think they're just it's also just because they're experienced enough to the point where it's like I kind of just click with them in terms of just game sense and what we think needs to be done on the map and such.
It's certainly useful to be on the same page, and it very much showed in both these games today that we're a big turnaround from yesterday's games. I was wondering if you could give us a little bit of insight as to maybe what you guys adapted from yesterday into today and what we can expect from Wildcard Red going forward, because next time, we got to take down MU.
I think everyone overall just like played a little weird, and our mindset was just really shaky. It kind of felt like a little bit of stage nerves, but overall, I think the majority of us just had a bad day, and we just weren't focused.
I'm glad to see things having recovered. Thank you so much for coming on. We got another game to get to with your sister team. We're going to cast some Wildcard Black over here. So unfortunately, we got to hurry out, but it's been very appreciated to have you on. And I look forward to seeing now that those nerves have calmed down.
I just got to ask.
In Champions League. Yes, please, DJ.
Sorry, really quickly. What's gonna be on the line between you guys and Wildcard Black next week? There's got to be some sort of bet.
I'm not really sure. I'd have to discuss it with the rest of the team.
All right, we'll have to wait on that until next Monday, ladies and gentlemen. But keep that one on your minds: Wildcard Black versus Wildcard Red next Monday here at Risen.
All right, thanks so much for joining us, Brandini. We're going to take a short technical break before we get into the next game, the next draft, as we're going to be hopping over to Wildcard's Black Series in just a few minutes.
All right, thank you for having me.
All right, welcome, guys. We are here for the third game. I'm like 90% sure of MU versus Wildcard Black. I can only imagine it's the third game, as we've already gone to the second with Wildcard Red, having gone to 0, and now back to a series where Wildcard Black have the chance to sort of get an edge on Wildcard Red going into their next matchup, because MU did beat Wildcard Red last time.
Yes, they did, Dia, and they beat them in 2-0 fashion. So technically, Wildcard Black have already done better than their
Nice.
other roster here as we do get into game 3. See the bans on the table here. Ezreal, Lulu, and Nocturne taken away from Maryville. Karma, Rumble, and Viego going to be the bans from Maryville. And that Ezreal is an important one because Azog was absolutely smurfing on it yesterday, particularly in that game number 2. Had a really, really good performance there up against the likes of Arrow, who we just saw absolutely dominate throughout that series.
Ooh, and a Renekton first lock-in as well. Definitely given a lot of priority over to Quacker. We talked about this a little bit, but Quacker, definitely the highlight player of Wildcard Black.
Yes, he is. And this Renekton has been his specialty all year long. Not just this split, but spring split as well. Tried and true wildcard strategy here is to get Quacker that Renekton, get him agency, get him ahead, and let him spread his lead all over Summoner's Rift. So like the priority sticks here, surprised that people keep giving him the champion. We'll see if he can punish them for it, Dia. The Varus and Thresh, though, are the answer, and that is quite a strong bot lane. Interested to see what Minwi and Yasin have in store to match up with this.
We'll have to hedge our bets a little bit, as a Nidalee is certainly going to provide a lot of explosive potential back into the top side for Wildcard Black, but we could sort of see a yin-yang of power starting to develop. Strong bot side versus strong top side gives you very different ways to play the game. A lot of times for Wildcard Black's strong top side, you'll end up going for the more econ route, prioritizing Rift Heralds, whereas MU will have the opportunity to start stacking those dragons, threaten a win condition through the soul, and it's sort of a game of catch-up here and a snowball for Wildcard Black. Although with a Nautilus lock-in, you could be looking to challenge the Varus Thresh.
Yeah, you definitely could. But what patch am I looking at here, Dia? We're on 11.12, right? This is looking more like 11.5 here with Renekton Nidalee, the first 2 picks of the draft for Wildcard Black. This is as tried and true spring split as it gets here. Tempo in the top side, the tower dives at level 3 or 4, that Renekton Nidalee combo, the empowered W into the spear is that guaranteed kill in those early levels and can absolutely run over a top side. And honestly, Lee Sin is definitely not immune to that. Maryville will give Chippies a champion. Potentially Chippies. I think it's Chippies here, a champion that he has been very comfortable on, but definitely can be susceptible to that kind of pressure.
Yeah, I'm curious whether the Lee Sin does end up going to the top side, because it's also something that can duel with Nidalee relatively early on, has a lot of outplay potential there. So technically a flex pick is going to make it a little bit harder for Wildcard Black to play out the second phase of bans, whereas MU, they already know you don't have an ADC. Well, you're not going to get one.
Yep. Okay, hold on here. Jin Zhao going to be the ban away. So a lot of junglers off the table. I'm a little surprised that MU didn't ban Senna here, Dia. They're going to hover this Gangplank. The reason I'm surprised that they didn't ban Senna is because clearly Wildcard Black are setting up to play this top side, right? Renekton Nidalee, if you don't play around that, you're not going to win the game. The whole point of that pick, those 2 picks, is to just dominate the top side. And the Gangplank, okay, that's an interesting answer here because it does have that orange, can just get rid of the CC. That being said, Gangplank is a pretty squishy champion in the early stages of the game, Dia, and even if you don't get the guaranteed stun lock, you can probably still just dive him anyway. So we'll see if this one can be piloted well enough by Chippies to stay alive because, oh yeah, okay, I love this. I love this from Wildcard Black. This is a great adaptation at the end of the draft. This is the Lucian mid for Robbie Bob, one of his favorites. The Ziggs, we've seen Minwi pull this out, and Ziggs has been rising in priority because it's one of the few mages you can put in the bot lane and that can provide damage over the top to dive compositions, and that is what you want here with Renekton and Nidalee for this dive. The Nautilus can set it up, the Ziggs can bring it home. I really like this champ pick here from Minwi.
Yeah, and now there's going to be a little bit of adaptability from MU to respond to that as well. With a Victor lock-in last, they get their scaling AP where they need it, and honestly, MU have themselves a draft that is strong at all points in the game, whereas Wildcard Black, I'd say, skew a little bit earlier.
Yeah, they're definitely going to skew early here. Wildcard Black want to run this game over. They want to run it over through Clam and Quacker, which I can appreciate. Quacker, again, we've talked about how talented he is, how good he is at this Renekton. They're going to try to set him up for success, and they will have all day long to do it here on the top side because there is so much priority for Wildcard Black. The Victor is good in laning against Lucian. You can pop that E to do damage back to him when he wants to dash into you. But the wave clear and the wave control is definitely still going to be in Robbie Bob's favor. So tempo is available in spades here for Clam. If he can path right, if he can do the right things, he and Quacker will have every opportunity to get to Chippies here in the top side. And if they can kill him 2 or 3 times in the early portion of the game, Wildcard Black will be set up for massive success as they try to open up the map with the Ziggs.
And let's be real, you and I, like, killing a Gangplank isn't actually that hard when you've got so many dashes, especially when we consider the slice and dice, the dash, the relentless pursuit from Lucian, the jump from Nidalee as well. There's a lot of ways to get on top of a relatively immobile champion who really does just get that move speed, especially when Stride Breaker comes in. It only gets more difficult, and I'm almost looking at this from MU and saying, do you give up the top side? Do you let Gangplank sit back and scale and try to invest into a bot side win con? Try and punish this Ziggs that doesn't have a lot of sustain and get yourself ahead with the Varus using the Lee Sin to gank, put down more pressure. It's a difficult thing to know, to make the right call. Can you sack the top lane? Will it be too much? And that's something that we'll only get to learn in the game.
We will only get to learn in the game, but I do think our eyes need to be trained on Chippies here. I think, again, the orange, a clever use into this stun lock combo, obviously, but we've mentioned it time and time again, this Gangplank is still diveable. You don't necessarily need a perfect combo to dive a Gangplank. Chippies and the odd orange and Spyrax as well need to execute this at a high level, whether that's protecting the Gangplank, whether that's sacking the top lane and using your scaling for later, using the Gangplank utility with the global cannon barrage, whatever the strategy is, it needs to be executed well because Wildcard strategy is obvious. We know exactly where they're going to be and exactly what they're going to do. The question is, can you play well enough around it? Can you have your timers correct to stop it? Because if you can't, you can just get run out of this game. If you do stop it, you scale like crazy here with this Gangplank, with this Victor. It will be so hard for Wildcard on multiple short-range champions to get into your face, to try to engage onto you. The Varus will disengage as well. I think team fighting for Wildcard Black, the later we go, is really hard, Dia.
Are you seeing what I'm seeing as well? The Lucian top lane, the Renekton mid lane. This is actually really tough for the Gangplank. And hey, you might not have to gank him, but you can shut him down with a Lucian.
Thank you for bringing this to my attention, Mr. Dia, because I completely forgot that this was an option. I will admit my shame here that I forgot about the Quacker Lucian. It was not that long ago that we saw Quacker in the OQs pick up a pentakill on this champion in the same matchup, Dia. This is the exact same scenario, and Lee Sin as a jungler has some tempo, but isn't necessarily the best for defending the GP. So what was already a favorable situation for Quacker gets even worse here for the likes of Chippies. This could go very, very wrong. And we could honestly see Chippies and Spyrax try to swap lanes here and have this Victor go into the top side. That is how bad this matchup is for Gangplank.
Well, let's find out what the adaptation is, because what we were looking at going, this is a pretty MU game, with their scaling, with their ability to poke out, and Wildcard having a high barrier of execution, now all of a sudden becomes one that MU have to adapt to and try and play to their own strengths in the early game to keep themselves relevant when it does come to that mid game. We'll see what ends up happening as we're going to take a short break before we head onto the Rift for our third game of the day here in Risen Champions League. We'll see you soon. Welcome to the Rift, ladies and gentlemen, for your third game of the day. A totally different game from what we were seeing earlier. This time it's Wildcard Black versus Maryville University, and we've gone all the way to game 3. 1-1 is the scoreline. Wildcard Black, they made some last-minute adaptations and even some pre-active plays to try and get themselves ahead, and it's going to work as Yasin picks up first blood, and more importantly, Wildcard Black start this off on the right foot.
Oh my god, that was insane, Dia. A full 5 send up mid lane into the flash hook. I give Spirax a pass here. I would have never have expected that. That is absolutely bold, and I love it from Wildcard Black coming in with the plan and getting themselves the early edge.
It's what you need to do. I mean, imagine you have to see your sister go down just yesterday, be taken away by Maryville University, and now you only got vengeance on your mind. That's what I can only imagine just went down in the mid lane, and it doesn't look like MU are going to be swapping lanes either, so the suffering is only going to continue.
Yeah, the suffering might only continue here. We mentioned it again. Quacker on this Lucian. What a fantastic matchup he has into Chippies, who has elected to stay on the top side here. Spirax is not headed up there, and he is well set up to dominate this lane and potentially dominate the game just like he did against Dare Black in the OQs. You can see it already. Trading always going to be favored for Lucian in the early game against this GP.
Man, this is actually already a wild game, but this is really good capitalization from MU. You see Shady take what looks like a bad trade, but remember, Ziggs doesn't have that much sustain. Outside of the 2 pots that he's got, it's really nothing to speak of for Minui, and I'm worried, to say the least, especially seeing now that MU have already identified a potential weakness of this bot lane.
Yeah, I think they do identify the weakness. Fortunately for Minui, he will have some of those cookies to help with the mana and potential sustain. And he does have long range if he does need to step off. Wave, though, pushing slowly into Maryville. I think this is what they want, like it from them, but they are late to the level 2s here. So a nice job done by Yasin and Minui. Hook gonna land a level 2, though.
It's nice. It's going to chunk through a little bit of Yasin's shield. Not going to do too much damage, but what I really like here is the awareness from Maryville. They're pulling the wave based on where their jungler is. Seeing that the odd orange is all the way up in the top side, they don't have the liberty to go for these plays, although look who does. It's Wildcard Black. Yasin goes a little bit too far forward. He's ignited. He might just go down. His last auto going to land from Azog, and Minui needs to pull Clam down here. The spear does land at Shady. Manages to flash away just in time. Clam flashing forward, wants to finish off Azog here, has to land the spear. Minui lands the bomb, though, and it's going to be a kill going back into the pockets of Wildcard, as up here, Odd Orange going to take down Quacker more than likely, as this Lee Sin just punches him in the face to death.
Yeah, that's a huge gank from Odd Orange, but all the action happening in the bottom side here, as it's Yasin going a little bit too deep there, connecting the hook onto Azog. He gets punished for it, but fortunately, Clam is in the area. Minui holds on to the flash, baits them in, and he's able to collect the kill back onto Azog. Now in the mid lane, good gravity well by Spirax will keep himself alive.
And just barely, right, with the gank from Clam not quite working out for the kill, is at least going to transfer into the Raptors. And Wildcard Black, they keep what we saw from the level 1 going throughout the entire game. Yes, they've lost out on a few kills. Yes, Maryville University have made some proactive plays, but it's Wildcard Black that are really pushing the agenda here, going for a gank into the top side. Odd Orange is going to be caught by 2 members in his own jungle, has to dash away, even ignited under his tower, has to burn Chippy's teleport as well.
Yeah, is this even going to be enough? They're
Oh
going
my
to trade
God.
the TP's Wildcard. There's another one!
What is going on? Odd Orange is going to fall into the tower, and Clam should be able to escape. That last auto not going to be able to connect. Can Maryville even find anything off the back of this? It looks like the answer is no.
No, it is not. There's nothing there for Maryville. This is exactly what we wanted from Wildcard Black in this draft. They are full sending it on this top side, Dia, and it's paying off in spades. 800 gold lead. Quacker gets back even after getting ganked. Robbie Bob even picks up a kill. Wildcard are absolutely going for it with this aggressive composition, and the plays are working out so far.
All right, I'm gonna work on my pronunciation of this before we get back into the team fight. We've been informed, of course, that it's a Min-Wee, and I've been saying, I think, Minui, maybe? I think I've been doing that. So Min Wee is what I'm going with when we pan back to this Ziggs, who I'm expecting to get a few more kills. So if I'm gonna be yelling your name, I better be yelling it right.
Oh, absolutely. He'll definitely pick up some kills on this Ziggs. Yeah, just the two syllables, not three. Make it easy on yourself, Dia. That's what we're aiming for here at Wildcard. Always want to make it easy on ourselves. And Wildcard Black trying to make this game easy on themselves with the early plays here. You can see it has resulted in a 1K gold lead, and there is a ton of agency and tempo here for Clam. He's 15 CS up on the Odd Orange and should continue to run the map with the help of Robbie Bob and Quacker. In the meantime, though, Odd Orange looking to punish the bottom lane.
Yeah, MU are taking this game to their own hands as well. Great hook going to land, and that's going to be Min Wee, unfortunately falling, as I'd expected to yell his name, but not like this, DJ.
Yasin, you traitor! You traitor! He didn't take the hook. He dodged the hook.
He tried.
It's not Yasin's fault. It's not his fault. It was a very nice hook coming in from Shady. Just a little unfortunate as we watch the Nautilus hook himself out of the range of the death sentence and does sentence his own AD carry there to death. I mean, we will head on back to lane with the TP, though, so we won't miss too much. But a nice fight back here from Maryville. They are not going to go down softly.
Nicely spotted in the brush as well from a bomb by Min. We will keep him safe as, like we say, the Ziggs still can be punished. It's still very vulnerable to a lot of these chunks, and Azog getting the kill early on and perhaps potentially able to convert that into a little bit more poke is still very punishing. As you can see him hanging out here, has the wave pushing towards him, and it's Wildcard Black. They're going to have to overextend for farm.
Yeah, they are going to have to overextend, and the Drake is up at the moment, but nobody really seems that interested in it, Dead. Wildcard Black looking probably to set up more plays. Keep your eyes on Clam with this lead that he already has for himself. Likely to try to pick up objectives, potentially invade the jungle when his top and mid do have priority. Another death sentence is going to land.
Not going to work out so well. This time Yasin flashes forward. They want to try and kill Azog here, and they more than have the damage. The cannon barrage comes down, but that is not going to help turn the tides of battle as Min Wee picks up not one, but looks to make it 2 kills. Ooh, she's barely missing it on Shady there. Should be able to clean this up, although this time being burnt is actually very precious and might not even result in a kill because there are 3 members of Wildcard Black top looking to bully Chippies once more.
I mean, this is beautiful. This is textbook here. Oh, no, he took a sure shot. Maybe not as beautiful as I thought. Okay, there go. Okay.
Good execute in the bot lane from Shady as well, plus a trade back and kills. Actually evens things up for MU. This play did not go as poorly for them as Wildcard Black tried to set up.
No, it almost was there. Wildcard Black had the timer. They got the kill quickly, but Spyrax and Odd Orange respond appropriately. The second turret shot there taken by Robbie Bob was the death sentence, in my opinion, for Wildcard. If they're all even, half health, 3/4 health there, they could fight that 3v2. But as soon as their big tanky member with the sustain there, falls down to the turret, they don't have the bodies anymore, and they lose the extra kill at the end of it. Tempo lost a little bit. The only solace they can have there is Chippies. Look at this poor man, 20 CS behind, and it's not going to get any easier.
No, although with the rotation into the mid lane, Chippies is hoping that this will at least treat him a little bit better, as the matchup into the Renekton not nearly so bad as the one in the Lucian, despite Renekton's heralded early game prowess. Not to the Mythic just yet either, although he's going to eat a spear on his way out. Clam could look to chunk him out a little bit, but it'd be extending into the fog of war, and with no team having established aggressive vision just yet, going for these aggressive plays has to be built on confidence, and it's something that Wildcard Black cannot afford to have.
Yeah, you do have to play with a little bit of reservation with this composition. I can definitely understand the desire to plow forward considering the champions that we have. Very early skirmishers, champions that want to fight and win the game on 1 max 2 items. And they have had some leads and tempo. They want to try to push that, but we saw what happens when you do overextend or mis-execute your play just a little bit. You can get punished. And a couple more punishes, too many punishes from Maryville. They've got all the scaling in the world here. There is a point in this game around the 2 item mark when it becomes too hard for Wildcard Black to team fight. into Maryville's composition. They know they're on a timer, and that's maybe why we see some of this overeagerness.
That timer's already run half out as well. With it being 10 minutes into the game and only 200, maybe 300 gold in your favor as Wildcard Black, you're not upset per se because you're still even, but you're definitely not too hopeful just yet. And it's going to require a lot more of those plays top and a lot more aggression just as a whole to be able to clear this game out. Hopefully, this matchup will do the trick as Quacker's back up against Chippies with the Lucian Gangplank matchup, but it's these small edges that, while we say they're so important in League of Legends, might not actually be adding up where you need them to.
Yeah, you can see Wildcard Black, though, trying to add to those advantages, hovering around the Drake. Odd Orange is on the other side of the map. He wants the gank onto Quacker. The pings are there. There is a ward for Quacker. Keep your eyes on Odd Orange. He's going the long way.
Should be all right for now as Odd Orange has made his way up for this gank. So it's going to be what looks like a Drake for a kill, but instead, Quacker, with the backup of a teleport and a flash to reposition himself, will get away to safety. So just the two summoners there expended to get an early Ocean Dragon, but you know what? Early might not have been the word I was looking for.
Yeah, it's actually a fairly late Ocean Drake here, but I still think this is a very positive play for Wildcard because they had the Rift Herald in their back pockets, and there's a Ziggs here in the bottom lane. So guess what? There goes the first turret, Dia. Welcome to Siege Central. Although Robbie Bob, oh boy, Robbie Bob, you went too far.
Yeah, even Dominant's not going to save you from that one, and a nice pickup on the Renekton might be able to answer some of that first turret gold back in the plates, although it doesn't look like that's what Maryville are looking for, as Chippies is going to need some backup in the top lane, has some from Odd Orange. Remember, Quacker does not have the flash here. Odd Orange is going to walk up to him, kick him in the face, and try and finish off this kill. Can they do it? Yes, they can! One tower shot away from going down, though. Odd Orange is going to survive on 1 HP.
Yep, I think Shady flashes in with the shield there, and that keeps him alive. Lovely stuff from the support, roaming up at the right time, and they finally punish Quacker once again, giving Chippies breathing room in this game. And remember, Wildcard Black's on the timer. Chippies is getting stronger. He's actually on the mythic item before Quacker is here. That is huge stuff from the Odd Orange.
And this Gangplank that we talked about wanting to scale, that's the investment in the late game, has been able to do so just fine. And your early game pressure, this Lee Sin and this Varus are both very happy right now. Prowler's Claw already picked up for the Varus, and a 5-kill Lee Sin is not left wanting for damage. So the mid game right now should be belonging to Maryville University. We'll see if they can execute on this, as the next dragon is really where we look for that to manifest.
I still think they need to execute pretty well here to win this mid game. It's 4 mythic items to Wildcard to the 3 of Maryville, and a lot of these 1-item spikes are still very nice for the Wildcard champions. The Night Harvester in for Clam adds a lot of that burst damage. Gale Force for Lucian is really massive, and I think particularly for someone like the Victor, we really need 2 items before he's dishing out the damage. There are certainly options here for Maryville, and they can dish out some damage, but I would still very heavily favor Wildcard in any sort of mid-game skirmish at the moment.
I mean, even in the top lane skirmish, I mean, Quacker still isn't going to let Chippies have it easy, and the Divine Sunder are not going to turn that matchup just yet. So if they really want, Wildcard Black can continue trying to abuse these side lanes and see if that works out for them. I think the risk there really is that they haven't gone too well for them just yet, and it doesn't seem like it's going well for Minwee either, as under the tower, he's going to go down the kick. Not actually finishing off the kill. They are going to let him get away. Well, in the top lane, things aren't the same for Chippies, who has to flash himself to live.
Yeah, he does have to flash. Both members going incredibly low there. Almost the perfect mechanical play from Shady, dropping that lantern to try to help his jungler get in there, but they can't quite get it done, and Chippies pays for that play with his flash and a lot of experience in CS here. Gonna get zoned off the turret, likely going to go down here. Hopefully Spyrex can trade it in the bottom side. It looks like he should be able to.
I mean, Spyrex is the difference right now. Completely unanswered on the map. Victor having the most CS in the game, well, we might say it's expected, or maybe something that you definitely want to play for, that we should be seeing in the majority of Victor games. It's not always true, but when it is, Victor can really, really pop off. And though the mythic item isn't in just yet, it's not due to lack of gold, as on this reset alone, we should see Spyrax pick up that first mythic and even more as he continues to get even more powerful. I mean, look at the levels alone. He's the second, actually, member to hit level 11.
Yep, second member there to hit level 11 behind Chippies, who has been absorbing a lot of CS has been shoved into him. So nice to see that he isn't that far down on EXP, actually somehow still ahead here of Quacker. I don't really actually understand how he is, given the CS numbers there and the assist numbers. But hey, he is. So nice stuff from Maryville. They've been able to leech enough CS there to keep their top laner very much in it, and Spyrax is still scaling up, already on one item, working towards that second. The tier is nearly fully stacked. And again, that second item is where we start to see Spyrax come online here and the compositions potentially flip-flop. So Wildcard Black still have a lot of work to do, and they are not in position to try to get on this second Drake.
At the moment, yeah, MU, like you say, they're the ones that want to be taking that second Drake, that want to be testing their limits right here. They can, well, maybe we can win a team fight. They're not going to get the chance to test them, but they will get a free boost to their damage, actually helping them as we get later on into the game. Well, Wildcard Black, yes, they're making the safe play, but they're definitely making what I'd call a small losing play by trading away the Drake so early.
Yeah, it definitely could be. I think it depends on where this Rift Herald does go. The second Rift Herald, always a big risk because you cannot get the gold value out of the turret plating anymore. It needs to really be used for a solid demolition job. The ideal situation is that Wildcard Black finds a big skirmish and pick. They use that and the Rift Herald to take down a turret and get an extra charge. I think that would make it worth it for them, as they can start to establish Quacker here on a side lane against Chippies, who, even as he scales up, will still have problems against this Lucian with the mobility and the damage. So it is a negative trade, I think, for now. It's all going to depend on how Wildcard can use it. But so far, I think Maryville have had some pretty good answers from this strategy for Wildcard as they pop it in mid.
Ooh, interesting. It's an aggressive strat, to be sure. Minwee does have the ultimate to clear out some of the wave and some of the champions. But Rift Herald already going quite low. I'm not sure if it's going to be able to land anything. Goes for the tower, does get the chunk out, and Azal going to go down as well. Robbie Bob focused on the side. Could be the trade, as it would be a 1-for-1. The flash away, not quite enough to keep him up. Shady going to go down as well. Burns the stopwatch to buy a little bit more time. It actually doesn't end up falling there. Quacker has to re-dash in to get the kill. Doesn't cost them their life, though, so very well worth it for Wildcard Black, and a little bit of utility now missing from Maryville.
Yeah, Robbie Bob does fall again, but I think this is that worthwhile use of the Rift Herald, and in fact, Maryville spends so much trying to stop it from getting the charge off that they lose their entire bottom lane and the turret for it. I don't think the trade back onto Robbie Bob is worth it, so I do think this has been a net positive play for Wildcard Black, though it hasn't broken the game open just yet. Still only a 1K gold lead, and I do agree that we would want to see more for Wildcard Black. They will have the responsibility of pushing this lead ahead now that the mid lane turret is gone. See if you can get some vision in the enemy jungle. Look to get a pick, a big skirmish, and turn that into a potential Baron in a minute and a half or Dragon in 2.5.
I mean, I love what they've already done as well. Take a look at the topside jungle of Maryville University. It's not even theirs. Blue Vision completely runs it, and it's control words that aren't going to expire either. Wildcard Black definitely know which area of the map they want to control. They've itemized into it pretty darn well. With the mid lane tower gone, makes it even harder for Maryville to come back here. But they're not even focusing on controlling that top side because they're continuing to funnel these resources into Spyrax. Still the most CS in the game, and that lead is only growing for the victor.
Yeah, it's getting bigger and bigger. 30 at the moment here. I think Robbie Bob been killed a couple of times and also knows his role here in this game. He is there to add pressure, to TP into fights, to be that big body and that stun for the rest of his team. A lot of the resources being dumped into Quacker here, who does have the 30 CS lead on, 20 CS lead onto Chippies, and is continuing to try to chip down at this top side of the map as the split comes through. But Shady trying to change that. I think he might be spotted out here by Clam, and it's like everyone just going to back away.
Yeah, I like that Maryville University, or at least try and respond to what they suspect or perhaps have confirmed has happened on their top side, with Wildcard Black being able to control that. Clear out a little bit of vision there, of course, but also answer in the sense of getting the opposite side of the map controlled, making sure that their victor is safe. The thing is, they're giving up a lot of Baron priority to do this. And if we take a look at Clam, who's still setting up traps, taking away camps in the top side, this could very quickly get out of control. If the odd orange even shows his face in the bot lane, that Baron could be one and done.
Yeah, I actually think it could, in particular because Wildcard have an extra TP on their composition, so they can always have a member in the side lane without too much fear. It still might be a little early for the Baron, though. Lucian is not on 2 items here. That is really sort of the big marker for when your damage gets high enough to quickly take the Baron, to kind of safely take the Baron, particularly against a Gangplank who can just drop that ultimate on top of you, make it really, really awkward around the Baron pit. You can see that Gangplank, it's a bit of a cheaper item, but he has picked up a second item with that Chempunk chainsaw there. So his damage will hurt, particularly around that objective. Wildcard are going to have to approach this a different way. They're going to need some kind of a pick. They're going to need some kind of a setup. Nice stuff there, Clammy. Worried us for a second there. Clam's a professional.
Nice. Even flashes the mastery, so we know exactly what is up. Second Drake for Maryville University. Third Drake of the game. Going to be secured by them. No contest. No even attempted Baron right now, as Clam was actually bot side. So Wildcard Black not able to make the most of their tempo for the moment, or more or less just going to be stalling out the game here. It's a play that, at least at face value, favors Maryville University, because they just get more time to hang out, to scale, to chill, and to eventually clash faces with Wildcard Black once they've got a few more of those items.
I do think that's true on the face surface value here, Dia. However, I will say the soul in this game is the Cloud Soul. And if there is a soul that you don't really need to contest most of the time, this is the one. I think Wildcard might recognize here that focusing their resources with this very early game focused comp is maybe not, onto the Drake, excuse me, is maybe not the right way to go about this. They've gone and traded away objectives for Rift Heralds. They're trying to take away turrets. I'm not sure it's worked out as well as they would have liked, but that seems to be the call here from Wildcard Black, particularly with this Ziggs in the composition, where any sort of solid skirmish, one team fight can result in a lot of towers going over their way, particularly if they can win it and take this Baron as well. That seems to be the strategy here from Wildcard, and in that sense, at the very least, as we see that flash away. That's why Prowler's Claw is getting nerfed, by the way. Shady, nice flash.
Yeah, yet another one as well. Actually saves his life right there. Much like we did seconds earlier, apparently Nautilus can auto you over the wall. That is absolutely wild. And we get back to a pretty neutral game state where we're still waiting for one team to make a misstep here. And I'm about to sneeze, so I'm going to have to stop talking because that's coming in. Oh my god. I see. Oh no, now I said it. Now I said it. It's not going to happen. Oh no, DJ. Oh no.
He's baiting us, Chad. He's baiting us here. Dia, the big baiter. But as you were saying, it's quieting down here a little bit because the tension is high with the Baron on the map, Dia. That's why those flashes were expended so quickly. Both these teams know that any pick could lead to that Baron, and that Baron is so critical to the state of this game. Pick it up, and Wildcard Black can execute on their win condition, can siege turrets, and try to bust the game wide open. On Maryville's side, if they pick it up and take away all of this map control, suddenly Wildcard's win condition falls apart, and they have so much work to do against the comp that will outscale them. This is that big objective. This is what Wildcard have been mortgaging Dragons for. So every play counts, every pick counts, and you have to flash away if you feel like you're in danger.
More than that, I think Wildcard Black, they're the ones that have the onus of a little bit more than just staying alive. Maryville, they can try and have some fun here. Is very clearly that's what Odd Orange is doing. Gets away to safety, but goes right back in with the Gorge Drinker. Gonna end up falling, actually. That could be the one pick, but Yisin does get answered back, and we're equalized for now. Chippies maybe looking for a little bit too much there with his face. Walks right back. Doesn't get the barrel onto Clam. So we'll retreat to a little bit more of a neutral game state, although Odd Orange is down. You notice Wildcard Black, they don't actually feel comfortable taking the Baron just yet.
Yeah, they're trying to earn some space here to go clear that away. The enemy jungler is dead, but they do not have Yasin, and their health bars are a bit chunked, so they will not head over there. And I think you got to say that's good enough if you're Maryville here. You stop the fight even after the Odd Orange flashed in to get the kick, could not send Clam backwards. I think you definitely take that 1v1 and stopping the Baron. Wildcard Black will have to look for another opportunity.
It's interesting, though, that around this, it's not Wildcard Black that are setting up the plays. That was a big punish on a play from Maryville, as Odd Orange, I'll say maybe overextended, going for the kill there, but it's something that still keeps Wildcard Black on the back foot where they've been for the past couple minutes, and where it doesn't seem like they're stopping to be anytime soon, because remember, we talked about this at the beginning of the game. They're the ones with more globals. They're the ones with that extra teleport. And if that's your advantage, if you're an earlier skewed composition, and you have more globals, your play around the Baron is to deplete the globals of Maryville University so that you can take an uneven numbered fight. But Wildcard are just expending those to keep map pressure, and it's not something that's going to end up getting them the big purple worm.
Yeah, it certainly hasn't so far here, although with 2 items now on Minwi, he just kind of chunked out Azog. This gives them free access to the mid lane tier 2, and I think this is going to go unpunished. A very nice play here for Wildcard Black as they gain some extra map control up mid lane here with just the expenditure of an ult that will be available in a very short period of time for Minwi. They'll even pick up the Drake on the backside again. I don't know if this Drake is really that important. It's kind of a freebie right now for them. The critical thing here is don't let Baron go, but Maryville, again, they know their win condition is late game. They don't need to risk it hopping on the Baron. They're just going to continue to funnel gold into Spyrax and look for the fight to break Wildcard's back.
Yeah, this is a big investment into the Victor, and it's one that Spyrex needs to be able to execute on because there's so much farm on this guy that he just got a bounty. That's the level of which Spyrax has been chilling at, that even the game goes, you know what? Yeah, I know you haven't gotten a kill, but you're a lot stronger than you look. We got to give you this one. And for Maryville to be able to just chill, just send Spyrax into the side lane for so long, to invest in his success in the team fight, you got to be able to pull your weight as a victor. And I haven't seen that just yet, but I have no doubt that it's going to become relevant in the next couple minutes because dragon or no dragon, fights are going to start breaking out as the nerves get to both Wildcard Black and very clearly Maryville University. Looking at you, Odd Orange.
Yeah, Maryville here does have control of the Baron area, though. They want Wildcard Black to walk in, see if they can get a trap set up here in one of these bushes. Wildcard doing their due diligence, though. They're clearing out flank wards here. You love to see this, dotting the I's and crossing the T's. Everyone, again, knows how critical this Baron is to this game state. It will break Wildcard Black if they cannot get this one. They do have that mid lane tier 2 turret down. They're looking for more structural destruction. Excuse my little rhyme. It's a half rhyme. A little half rhyme there. And you can see everyone's still trying to kind of fight for vision around this river. That is how important it is. Every flash, every summoner, every decision is made with this purple worm in mind. As Maryville continues to stack the gold up here. Wildcard will have to make the play at some point, though. 3 items here already on Gangplank, and I don't know how much farther away it is for Spyrax.
Dude, if I were Baron, I'd be getting nervous. I would be sweating because it's been 10 minutes since the game sort of starts to become about me. People start taking a look, you know? But at this point, you know that you have to be the thing to die for people to likely win the game. It's being played all around you right now. You got 10 people looking at you, and I mean, you're just chilling in a pit. How long can you actually hold down this pressure? Because everybody else already seems to be cracking.
Yeah, everybody else cracking a little bit. Wildcard's out of position here, though. They might have some trouble holding this mid lane turret. I mean, we got to expend the ulti there to get it done. That won't be available for any sort of skirmish here. Robbie Bob just double dashed.
Yeah, I mean, sure. I mean, if Robbie Bob wants to fight, Lily's gonna have to burn the Zanya's Dominus as well. It might still work out though. Flashes forward and almost picks up Azog as the shutdown comes in from Quacker on the culling. It's gonna be a 1-for-1 right now as it's a trade of that big Crocodile. Quacker not quite able to finish off the plays, but a good hook from Shady might let Spyrax start to pop up there as he cleans up the Nautilus currently. Maryville University, they're the ones coming out on top. Out Orange on the flank here, just needs to land that resonating strike. Doesn't connect on the Clam, though. And it's going to be a small play, actually ending up in the favor of Maryville University that everybody disengages from.
Everybody does disengage, and I gotta say it was so close for Wildcard Black there as Robbie Bob baited them in, flashed over the wall, stayed alive for so long, but they could only get Azog. Spyrax's health bar was blinking, but the peel came in from Shady, and with the Fed mid laner alive here, Wildcard could not get it done. They lose an extra member, and they still have to wait here to get that prized Baron. It is not far away now. The death cap almost available here for Spyrax, and that item might just spell the death of Wildcard Black.
And I want to say as well that Minwei has also been getting a lot of farm, but we haven't been talking about the Ziggs nearly as much because it scales pretty well, but it's not a scaling win condition. You know, you use your Ziggs to amplify the rest of the composition. You can blow people up, but right now, even with that death cap, a lot of Ziggs damage is conditional, whereas Spyrax is the thing that sort of lays down the consistent damage throughout team fights that is a lot more point and click.
It is much more consistent damage, right? The Ziggs is going to be the pure burst there. It is really nice to have him on those three items. We've been complimenting Spyrax here for all of his CS. We kind of forgot about Minwei. He is the highest in the game here at 307, but he does need a little help to deal that damage down. And Wildcard Black just gonna say, fight us here. I think they might have spotted them on a ward on the other side of the map. They're gonna peel off and look for a catch.
Yeah, let's see if they can find it, as Maryville still playing very respectfully. Chippy's going to be able to not even escape, just sort of walk it out here. Yasin does find a hook, but it's not onto anybody pickable, anybody burstable, especially when we're talking about Minwei, who's actually taken a fair chunk of damage himself, and Maryville still, they get to play this slow, controlled, as the focus of the game does turn toward this dragon. It would put somebody on soul point.
It is going to put Wildcard Black on soul point. I think there's no Varus ulti. The Chains of Corruption are down. While Maryville actually going to start the Baron, but they don't do it very fast. This is a lethality Varus, and yes, you have the Victor. You still don't do it fast enough. Wildcard is calling their bluff here. They're going to get the Drake and be able to contest this Baron while the mid-wave pushes. Really like this from Wildcard. And Maryville looking a little scattered here. I don't know if they're trying to set up a trap on the top side, but their top laner is still running back out onto the map.
Yeah, it looks like it's not going to be too much, but a vision clear out, right? Keeping Wildcard Black from being able to just straight up follow up onto the Baron, but it's turning into a play in the favor of Wildcard as they get to march this straight down the mid lane, and thank God Azog can clear out some of the minions. I don't know if he's going to be able to clear out enough.
Yeah, he does force them back here as the rest of the recalls come in, but we were just saying it was kind of an interesting play from Maryville there. I didn't quite buy it as they split up. They tried to push the top side, but never really going to out-push this team composition. The Ziggs at the moment just clearing waves so quickly. It seemed a little discordant from Maryville. Now they have their group back in here, all 5 members back into the river, but maybe a little bit of gold and tempo lost. Although we look up at that gold score, it is dead even here. Dia down from the 2K lead Wildcard had a few minutes ago. They are on soul point though, and still that Baron survives. 33 minutes in.
DJ, I'm gonna have an aneurysm here waiting for a fight to break out. The Rabadons is now completed, and the stopwatch as well for Spyrax. 3 members are going to eat an ult, and it's going to force Maryville University to reset. We think this could be the opening for the Baron, but if this game is any indicator, we're still not going to get any action. Both these teams will continue to play the patience game, wait out the big mistake.
Yeah, they're not going to go for it here. Spyrax does have TP, so I can understand it, although you could have tried to force it out, but my, oh my, Minwei is starting to get real obnoxious here, throwing these ults out on cooldown and really chunking some people out. There is not that much sustain on the enemy composition. So I can understand it here. Just those members in the top side, the odd orange and chippies with some in their kit at the moment. So really like what Minwee's doing, and his ulti is right back up here at this point of the game. So much AP, so much ability haste. Not too worried about expending that cooldown.
Your double Drake Soul as well. It's not bad, is it? And yeah, if they actually end up picking up the Soul itself as Wildcard Black for the Cloud, they'll get not just the ability haste, but movement speed as well. Robbie Bob likely going to lose his life right here. Is ignited and going to burn down to the Cannon Barrage. Losing that GA is actually a pretty big deal when we consider that he needs to live, and he goes down faster than I can even say his name.
Yeah, but it is a support. While Clam does snipe out Shady there, it's a support for a mid laner. Robbie Bob going to be way more important here, and Clam is half HP. Critical pick comes through from Shady. His life probably worth it, and now Wildcard have to worry about this Baron. Good God, those are chunking, but again, Chippies does have some sustain here. You can see he's actually just healing back up with the oranges, so healing just fine as he can shake off the poke. And we still, God damn, we are still at this standstill here. Maryville cannot quite crest the hump. They have all their items, but the long-range damage from Wildcard is still just keeping them in this every time.
One kill here, one kill there. It hasn't turned into anything for the past 16 minutes of the game. We've had knives at each other's throats. We have 120,000 gold on the Rift right now, and nobody to bring it home. At this point, you win a fight, you win the game, and that's what both these teams are so ridiculously afraid of. It's why we're sitting here just waiting for somebody to make that mistake. But well, we do wait. We're eating a lot of chunks and a lot of individual picks as well. Nobody wants to overextend. Nobody more than Wildcard Black, who, remember, are still on a vengeance mission.
Yeah, and you mentioned the stakes here, Dia. You can understand why people are hesitant. Wildcard Black lost yesterday. They need this game to stay alive in the group to have any chance of advancing in the Wildcard Civil War next Monday after they did fall 200x. And Maryville can secure their place basically in the playoffs with a victory here. There is a lot on the line in this decisive game 3 for these two teams. You can see it in the play. You can see it in the you can feel the tension here between these two. It's at this point 37 in. It's going to come down to one team fight. Whoever can make the big play, execute on it, will win this game. Mid priority here over to Maryville.
Yeah, this is really spooky right now. Shady absorbs a spear through his entire body, it appears, as Clam doesn't quite land that one. But Yasin constantly looking for these hooks, going to go wide on Shady one more time. This is likely going to be the fight, as everybody fighting over this mid lane priority right now, as the dragon is up as well. Yasin, Hex Flash, still doesn't find the hook, though. Q lands right back on him. Chaos Storm gets dropped. Is this the bait? Big ult missing from Minwee. Spyrax already half health, and once again, we're just going to play this unending game. Chicken Spyrax, though, taken very low. Clam not having the flash. You're not going to be able to clean that one up, but good God.
Trigger, we got the ult coming out here from Quacker. They're trying to chase him down. He has Cyrilda's Grudge. It actually slows them up here. And Wildcard with Spyrax Chunky has to go back to base. He's still not full HP. They're going to hop onto this Drake, try to take it down. I think they've got it.
Yeah, if you get this, which it looks like they will, Cannon Barrage or no, we'll see if that Baron, if that barrel does claim it, but unfortunately, Clam going to be able to smite this one away. Now Elder Dragon next on the table.
Wildcard have to get out here. Wildcard have to rush out of their base here. They cannot let them just set up for this Baron. At this point, even with a slow-taking Baron team, you can take it pretty quickly here. Everyone's damage available, but instead they're going to turn back, look for a pick.
Ult is still available. They're going to be expended by Minwee, forcing the flash out of Azog now with an immobile Varus. Not able to dodge any further damage, any further bombs. It's going to be Maryville University that are forced to take the reset here, gamble themselves whether Wildcard Black turn onto that Baron.
My God, Minwei, this champion, man. Dia, 11-13 is going to be a nightmare. Do you have any idea how many Ziggs picks we're going to see in 11-13 after I think he's getting another buff at 11-13. He is literally nearly one-shotting people with his ulti at this point. Azog has to worry about his life every time that R button is pressed, and now he does not have flash or heal for the next fight. Minwei is just dishing it out on this Ziggs. Got the elixir in the inventory at this point. Nearly full build here as we are cresting the 40-minute mark. And that Baron still not taken, Dia.
We return to what is essentially an NA ram, with the exception, of course, of Chippy's pushing up that bot lane. And I like the adaptation from Maryville, setting up the pressure, as you can already see. Auto Orange on the flank as well, maybe looking for a little bit of a play under the tower. Gonna get spotted on the side with the Raptor giving away his position. The bot wave going to crash, maybe giving Maryville that little bit of a global edge.
Yeah, and Wildcard are just sacking that wave in the bottom side. They do not care about the experience. Clam gets seized on. Here's the engage.
Oh my God, such a huge ult from Minwei, though. Might have just won them the fight, with Quacker able to dance around Chippies. Odd Orange does connect to the Q, but Chippies goes down. Odd Orange barely retreating over the wall to safety here. It's Maryville University that have lost one, trading for the life of Clam, and the follow-up still isn't there. We still get these teams just at each other's throats.
Yeah, the problem for Wildcard Black is that Clam is dead. If it was anyone else, they would be on the Baron, but they cannot do it. Maryville can breathe a sigh of relief that the jungler is the dead member. What a fight from these two teams. The damage coming out from both is ridiculous. Minwei is just pumping it out here every time he ults, and Quacker looked very good in that fight. The disengage from Maryville saved more lives than they could have lost. They keep the Baron up, and they keep the tension rising here, as we might at this point, Dia, get an Elder Baron split map here in 3 minutes.
You know what we might also be getting is the longest game of Risen Champions. That genuinely might be a thing, because at 41 minutes, the game shows no signs of accelerating. Both teams still very happy to chill out for a little while, and I'm genuinely uncertain if it's going to end even before the hour-long mark, at the pace that we're going, at the unwillingness of both of these teams to fight. But it seems like Wildcard Black, they're not here for that. They're pulling the trigger on the Baron.
Wait, it's a full trade. They're not interested in this. Spyrax in the bottom lane with the support. They can't contest for this. They're just giving it up. They're going to peel them off. This is a huge play from Maryville. They got members in the bot side of the map pushing into the enemy base. Can they stop the bases?
Doesn't look like Auto Orange wants to commit there, doesn't want to give up the Baron. Instead, it's going to be Spyrax playing a little bit more safe with the backup of Shady. It's a purely winning play for Maryville, and it took them 42 minutes to set up. But now that they've got it, they've almost cracked the base of Wildcard Black.
Yeah, and Ziggs went to the bottom lane. I'm not sure why. There's multiple teleports available here for Wildcard Black, so he wasn't in the mid lane to wave clear. They lose their mid lane tier 1, and that is so much extra control that Wildcard had. But now the GP ult is down. They're going to return here. Spyrax has TP. He's going to have to come this time.
And now with no ult on Chippies as well, there's no early chunk coming out. The barrel's not quite going to connect, but Auto Orange can go into the pit to try and steal this one. Takes it in, but doesn't get the kill on the Baron. Minwei picks that one up, chunks out everyone on the backside as well. And Baron, at the very least, if no kills, are going to go over to Wildcard Black.
Oh my God, the Baron finally goes down, but literally nobody dies. What is this game of League of Legends? We talked about Wildcard Black's composition needing to win in the early game, and here we are at 43 minutes, and they finally take a Baron. They have Cloud Soul. The Elder is up in a minute. I don't know how it's happened, but Wildcard Black have the Purple Worm. They have the Ziggs for Siege. Can they execute on this Baron push and try to fall back to the Elder? If they can, it could be the game.
It's so crazy because in a way you can't even use the Baron now because you've got to be so worried about the burst that can come down on this Elder Dragon. Good hook gonna land, but Odd Orange gets taken to safety by that Dark Passage, only providing increasing value. Chippies almost goes down. Quacker ends up cleaning up a kill. Is this the end for Wildcard Black? They found one pick. They find another onto Shady, we think, but no! Shady survives as Quacker's the one that goes down, and the Dark Passage only serves to save another member. The mid lane tower, though, does go down, and Minwee, Clam, and Robbie Bob, they're all pushing into the mid lane, taking down our first inhibitor of the game.
Yeah, they get Quacker, but at what cost? The base is burst open here, and it's still a 1-for-1. Spyrax is dead. Neither one of them will be up for this Elder Drake. They have a chance. Odd Orange can try to steal it, but they're always going to be second to this. There's no GP ulti either.
Oh, Odd Orange spotted right now as well. So all of Wildcard Black know exactly who they have to
They're
contend
gonna hunt
with.
him down.
Just funneling into this bot lane. He might still be picked off. Flash forward from Robbie Bob. The safeguard gonna do enough, and another miracle Dark Passage might take him to safety. But the ult from Ziggs is out again, and Minwee picks up the most crucial kill of the game. Now opening up this chance at an Elder Dragon.
My God, I think Wildcard Black have finally done it. They get the Odd Orange despite all the odds, despite Shady's best efforts here, and they will take the Elder Drake. The Baron, okay, GP ult, okay.
Yeah, we gotta hold our breath here. It's not gonna go down. We still get the Elder Dragon. Things are cool. We're cool. Wildcard Black, they can still win this. They can still find the fight, right?
Yeah, they certainly can. They already have the wave pushing here in topside. They have a little bit of Baron buff left, and they're going to use it to the maximum potential here. If you thought Minwee was doing damage before, if he lands an ult, they just melt. The Elder Drake will do it for him. Wildcard's looking to end this game here, Dia.
Oh my God, with 2 inhibitors down now, Wildcard Black have to play the balancing game perfectly. The ult is going to land, chunking out multiple members, but nobody gets executed by the barest of margins. But the turret is just 2 autos from death always. Finally, the pick comes back onto Yasin, though. And is this Wildcard Black having to back away? Even with Odd Orange on the flank here, they might still be able to take the fight, and they're risking it right now as a chunk comes in from Chippies. Chippies gets chunked right back, though. He might get executed. And Wave from downtown takes him out as Odd Orange is going to be next up on the docket. It's 2 picks now going over to Wildcard Black. They might still be able to end the game, but they're still playing this so patiently. Spyrax, he's going to go down. Another snipe from Minwee does it, and the ult as well is going to finish off the next 2 members. Shady's